All right. I don't know what that thing was, but we'll get started here shortly. We'll do some labs tonight. Work on some Ansible. Maybe do a little bit of Linux. Got to get some of those labs cleaned up too. Answer, Answerable, not answer. Man, this thing's messing up tonight, or maybe I'm just maybe it's just not working for me tonight. All right. I will. I'll hop on here shortly. In the meanwhile, you guys can check on Ranger Dog down there. Get in, grab a drink if you're going to hang out. We are going to be working on Ansible Labs, finishing up the last couple pieces of the book, and then we'll probably have to jump back over and do some of the Linux ones too to get those things cleaned up because I got some Linux ones I've added, so I want to get those ones in there as well. So there will be that, and then and then we'll hang out. I don't normally stream on Thursday night, but Thursday night the wife's out of town doing a scrapbook retreat until Sunday, so I figured I'd just stream a little bit more and hang out. Hey SM, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. You know, the wife's doing scrapbooking all weekend at a little place about 2 hours out of town, so she was driving out there tonight. She goes with a few of her girlfriends, and then they have some other stuff. Oh, nice. You're doing subnetting on IPv4. Good, good, good. If you need any additional help on that, SM, I have some stuff up in the Discord. Also, I can talk about it. Yeah, you can do that in the sleeps. Nice, nice, nice. All right. Let me have a minute then. I'll go grab some water and make sure my sound's okay on my music. My music's a little low. Maybe it's just a song. Yeah. Go right about there for the music. Alright. That sounds pretty okay. Kind of low for you guys probably, but that's fine. Don't want it to be too loud. So we'll get into doing some labs here in a minute. I'll be right back. Alright. Subtitles aren't available right now. What are they talking about? See? All I gotta do is talk louder. Okay. Alright, let's do this stuff. I'm here. Hop up here, and the labs that we left off on the other day had to do with generating a CSV report, and I didn't actually do any parts of it, so I got to write all of it today, so that'll be good. We'll do this stuff, and then we'll do a digging deeper. We always do that. That's like a reflection for people. Like, you can do a lab and you can follow a lab and just, you'll learn stuff. But I think that sometimes reflecting on it, maybe even writing out what you think might help the average person to remember things a little better. So I'm going to link this lab for anybody that wants to do it with me, and we'll go. So pin the lab, and I'll say that we'll do it until I manually unpin it, and then I'll drop it over in the, what's going on here, live streaming for YouTube. Why can't I see chat? I need to refresh that connection or something. Not letting me see chat over here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Boom. There's a lab over on the YouTube side for anybody that's hanging. Well, if the thing will fucking post. Jeez. Okay. Man, that was a nightmare. Hey, Oxygen, how's it going? Yeah, I get on and I start swearing immediately because technology doesn't want a technology very much. Okay. So this one talks about um, this lab, and some of you have done this with me before, I imagine. This lab deals with the interacting with the business, right? We as engineers, we don't just get to do things in a vacuum. I don't get to just build cool, fast systems all the time and people just go, oh, that's a cool, fast system and throw money at me. No, what I do has to support some business process at some point. And I constantly tell you guys, like, one of the things about engineering is you want to know what your value is to the company, like why they want to have an engineer, but you also have to balance that against, do I want to spend, like, do I want to do political stuff? Do I want to deal with being a manager? Because again, the better you are as an engineer, the more they're going to push you into management. So for me, I try to do the bare minimum, but I do understand that, like, I have to interact with management. I have to give them answers. I have to tell them things about the system. So instead of fighting against that, I'm going to make it easy on myself. So one of the things we did was we used Ansible to kind of manage that communication. And what happens is management has requested that you provide some system information. It got lost. It's been different generations of hardware drops, so there's old things, and people just don't know, or they don't know where to go to get the original information. So they're saying, hey, can you just pull that out of the system for me? And we say, yeah, we should be able to do that. And they want it in a format that's digestible by Excel. So you will also find that data science people, data science and your data analysts, they love stuff in like a .csv format. It's one of the unofficial languages of like data analytics guys. I have a buddy that's real good with like Google Tag Manager and stuff, and he said they just pass a lot of their stuff around as CSV, and I get it, that's fine. But anyways, that's something that we sometimes have to do. So we're gonna check out our root host file. See what we got there. We got these two servers here, but in this lab, we're really only going to run. Oh, we are going to run against both nodes now that I think about it, because we're going to pull all the information about it, right? And then we're going to create some directories. We're going to do this as like a data gather inheritable role, and then we're going to run it and see what kind of report we get out. Okay, so we're going to make this directory and then cd in there. So we'll make a roles and a reports directory. And if we look, there's nothing here. And then when we run our Ansible Galaxy to create init data gather, we'll see that there's a bunch of data there now, and we can do whatever we want. We can start to populate this, that kind of stuff. And I say from here, if you wanted to, you could write your own playbook. You could just go and write whatever you wanted. But I do say that you could just copy in the datagather.yaml and see what it's going to do. This is a simple playbook that just inherits that role data gather. This is actually executable right now. It won't do anything, but it's executable right now. We could run down. We can go down here and we could run this, and it won't have any tasks. Where's that? Maybe it says to do it in the next one. But anyways, there's nothing that it would do yet. So we've got that. And I said, what's going on in? Let's copy in our data gather tasks. So here's our primary tasks. Company ever fires time, right? Erase on all the machines. My instruction straightforward. Yeah. Never fires you time to. Yeah. So I have a buddy who he runs a report every day that tells him if anybody's. I think he does it every hour, and it tells him any actions against Active Directory in the company. So he always knows if people have been fired before it's gotten out to anywhere. Let's save in our data gather. So then let's cat this out and look at the playbook. And we looked at this the other day, but it says, what are we trying to gather? These are the things that we were asked to give. We were asked to give a server name, the server make, the server model, the processor type, and the socket numbers. Like how many sockets does it have? So one of my questions over here is, what information are you asked to gather from the management? And that is those 5 things. Which of them are facts and which are custom tasks? So what I'm asking there is, when we looked at this, I determined that I could figure out these 3 things directly from what Ansible could provide me. Ansible has the tooling. I don't have to do anything special. There we go. But these 2 things, I had to run a command. For the processor type, which I register the variable processor type, and then for socket, I register socket. Look, you guys can call your variables whatever you want. If you want to be more descriptive or less descriptive, if you want to do whatever you want, Your variable's never going to leave this or the Jinja 2 template, so it's up to you what you want to do with it. But I had to write a little shell command that would pull just the information I want and put it down in processor type, and then just the socket information that I wanted and put it in the socket variable. Then down here, if we want to, we could debug all the variables. Here's the other variable names that come as part of the factor, and they get the data, the gather facts yes, right, or true. So those all three come from that, and then the last two are the processor underscore type registered variable dot standard out and socket dot standard out, right? So those are our variables that we're gonna, if we want to, we could see them right there. And then we call this Jinja template, and we put the Jinja template in a place that will always be unique. So if I say when stamping the template file as a report, why is it so important that you use ISO 8601 time? What is the output you expect from ISO 8601 basic short? So that's and we talked about that in other labs, but the reason I like the ISO 8601 basic short is because it just doesn't have the overhead on the file system. It doesn't have special characters that are terrible, like a colon, and you just can't use that in a file system well. All right, so anyway, so we got that. It says now that we have the role and the playbook correct, let's execute to see it all work together. So we're going to run the playbook here, and we're just going to see what happens when we run it. It's going to run. It's going to gather all that information. It's not going to print anything out here because we're skipping all this. We didn't give the extra verbosity. And then we come down here, and it's supposedly created the output of the report, and there's the one file for the report. There it is in that nice format. And then here's our CSV value, which CSV is not very pretty for us to look at. But the other day when I did this, I think I saved one of these. I think I saved it right here in downloads. Yeah, here's our servers. And this is what it ends up looking like right here. This is the same one just from the other day. And while we might not like that on the system side, that's pretty much what management wants. Because then, if you guys have ever played with data inside of Excel, you can come up here and you go to data, right? And you say filter, and now you filter by these things, and then you could say, well, I only want things from like April 23rd, and you know, maybe it was pulled on different days. I only want things with maybe certain names. Then I come here and I go, I only want things that are KubeVirt. Now, I realize they're all KubeVirt here, but you know, you hit 1,000 servers, something's going to be different. And one of the cool things about it is when you select something, this is one of the reasons I think a lot of people like Excel, is it'll tell you when you're, like if you're looking at these, it'll say there's 3 of them. But if you hide some of them, like if you happen to just say, oh, I only want the one, you know, just show me the one, the control plane, it'll tell you how many are selected, and then it'll tell you, yeah, you're looking at one of 2 records. So over here, it'll tell you like, hey, there's 1,200 nodes in the cluster, but this thing that you filtered by, there's only 433 of them or whatever. So there's a lot of kind of value here that you can do by filtering stuff down and that kind of stuff. And that's one of the reasons management likes that stuff, right? We just have to, you know, the reason I show you guys that is because in the Linux world, we have to interact with the business, right? We can't, I'm not just sitting in my data, you know, center room, or not just sitting here at home not responding to emails and not listening to people. I'm talking to people on Teams, I'm doing other stuff, I'm getting asked questions, I'm having servers crash and have to go fix them or rebuild them or whatever we're doing. And these kind of things have to be taken into account, right? So we have to kind of do that. Okay, so we've got all that. We've made that, and let's see. Does it output correctly in a .csv format when you run it? How can you test that? And the way I tested it was I went right here and I threw it in a Notepad++. I think I've closed it, but I had it in a Notepad++ right here, and I saved it. So I would get exactly what I wanted. I could see the exact stuff. So boom, we hit check. It says, looks at you learning Ansible. You created a role that pulled information and then reported out in a CSV format to keep the management fed full of tasty information. Now, what I didn't really go over here was, before I ever even ran any of this, I should have shown you guys the template datagather.j2. So this is what the template looks like, right? And that the template's kind of ugly, right? I mean, templates tend to be that way when you're dealing in CSV, because what's happening here is across the top we're populating date, node name. This is the schema, right? And it's comma separated values. So here's the date, here's the node name, and each of those are going to get put in a different header in Excel. Yeah, so anyways, I started blasting, right? Or there's a good one. Or that one. I can answer that for money. Oh, should I amuse myself? Anyways, all right. So here's our date. And underneath there, as we loop through these variables, we get Ansible date time dot date and Ansible date time dot time. We would expect that to be exactly this value right here. Right? I'll move this down here. Let's move it down. I'll just put it right here. It'll be over talk to speech for a second, but just so we can see. There's our date right there. There's our date. And you'll notice that it's got two values because it's the Ansible date time dot date and Ansible date time dot time before that first comma comes into effect. All right. Then host vars host Ansible host name. That is our node name right there. So node name, it's got populated right here. And you could just walk down through the line and make sure that everything's good, right? Make sure that everything is kind of what you expect it to be, right? Hey, how's it going, Bottleneck? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We're just doing some Ansible cleanup, Ansible lab stuff, and I'm kind of showing you guys some of the pieces as we go. So, our digging deeper on this one will be, right, digging deeper. By the way, Fisherman, you probably got here a little late, but I was saying the wife is oh, I'm still on that. That's funny. The wife is out of town right now. She just drove off a few minutes ago. She's going out to a scrapbooking retreat, so she won't be back till Sunday. So I pretty much have, and I finished my, well, it's not the last paper for the quarter, but it's the last like real paper for this class, and that's out of the way. So now I have a presentation to do for next week. But it's like they're like making eight slide presentation. And I was like, I make like hundreds of slides probably every quarter, like for work and for teaching and stuff. So I'm like, that's not going to be hard. I imagine some people are going to be building their first ever slide deck, but I build slides all the damn time. So also, I found a really cool tool for that. I was telling you guys about that other tool for what is that called? And it's funny, now I forget what it's called, but there's a really good open source tool for that stuff. And I'm thinking Folium, but it's definitely not Folium. What is that stuff? Hold on. It's oh, it's called Overleaf. Yeah, you guys ever seen this Overleaf tool? Whoops, hold on. Where's this thing at? Overleaf. I think some of you guys mentioned that you had seen it before. Of course, I don't know who's all here, but I have a friend who made a really nice presentation for his doctorate with one of these, and they're really cool. You can do it on their site, or you can run it open source and just put a Docker image down. So I'll probably put it inside of my Kubernetes, my mini cube, inside my home lab. But what really works well, some of those things are okay looking, but I don't care about the resume part. I care about the thesis stuff will do fine. But it's like if you look at one of these, let's see if this one does it. Let's view the PDF real quick. That one's okay, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. Hold on. Let's see if I can find this one. The one that my friend did looks a lot like this. Oh, let's see. His looks a lot like this one right here. So what this one ends up doing, and you might say, Scott, that's not that interesting. And I say, yeah, maybe not, but look across the top how it's introduction, literature review, methods, results, and references. And then as you go through it, what happens, let's see, hold on. Let's see if we can get this to go. I want it to be page by page, but apparently this thing's not going to do it for me. All right, so let's just fit it page to page, and then we'll just go page down each time. And what happens is, you can see in the introduction, it's counting over each time. And so literature review will have each of the pieces of the literature review will push to the next button. And you can actually click on the buttons to skip to the right page too. So it's a really, really useful little tool, and the formulas are really nice in it. You can generate some formulas on par with some of the stuff. Like if you guys want to see this is my last doctorate little piece of work here, was I was writing in some of my stuff for inside of your so I was doing financial analysis of a tool, but over here you can actually put some pretty cool little analysis equations. You can actually build pretty cool little equations inside of Word nowadays too. But the point is, they have a pretty nice little thing of that as well. So I'll leave Overleaf up. I need to check that stuff out anyways. But all right, that's enough of that. We'll get back to that stuff later. All right, digging deeper. What other things do we want to know about this lab? If you're doing Ansible and you're figuring this stuff out and you're doing all these pieces, let's say that there's a special variable in Ansible sorry. Special variable right here called host vars. Right? And host vars that we're using, I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to say read the documentation on special Ansible special variables here. I'm going to say, how did we map to a specific host as we looped through the Jinja template? So to answer that question, if we come right here, we know that the special variable is called host vars, right? Look at this real quick. So right here, there's a for loop, and the for loop ends right here. That's the end of the for loop. And the for loop is counting host. Host is an arbitrary name. This could have been A, B, C, D, E, F. This is just the name of a variable for right now, okay? But we use host because it's descriptive, and if we're looping over Ansible play hosts all, which is a special variable that gets everything that was in the starting block of Ansible, right? Everything as Ansible came up. And in this case was control plane and node 01. Those were the two Ansible play hosts all. So we're going to loop over those each time we step through the loop. And the first time host will be control plane, let's say. And the second time it'll be node 01. So just hold that in your head. As we step into the playbook for the first time, we will be control plane. Then we say if host vars control plane dot socket is defined. So that's a variable that got ran right here. This was the socket one right here, right? If the socket number is defined, that's just what I picked. If that variable is defined, then we're going to drop down here and we're going to do all of this stuff for that host, right? So we're looping over this host. We're going to do Ansible date, Ansible time. That's going to be based off the primary server, the one that we're doing the reporting on. Then we're going to call host vars host dot Ansible hostname. Well, that will map to control plane the first time. The next thing will be host vars control plane dot Ansible system vendor. So it'll be that server's factor information that came from the setup, and it'll pull that down. and then the next one will be host var. So you'll see that this is control plane each time. Then we get to the end if, so we end the condition, and then we end the loop and we come up and we look for the next host, which is node 01. And then we say if host var's node 01 dot socket is defined, then do this. And that's how these templates work. That's all I'm doing in these templates. If it looks complex, I assure you it's not. The only complexity there is that we kind of have to make it look ugly because it's going in a Jinja 2 format. We're not worried about the output here. It's going to be ugly, guys. It's going to be compressed down. It's going to be CSV format. It's not super easy to look at here. But what it produces as a report... Never mind. What it produces as a report, pretty easy to look at. Well, especially when you put it up into into a... Remember, you're feeding this to management, guys. If we were doing it for ourselves, I don't have to put it out in any particular format. I can just do it in a way that I can read it. But since management wants to get a hold of it, and management wants to do their data analytics stuff and build their little pivot tables and do all that stuff, we need to give it to them in a way that they can kind of choke it down, right? This is one of these playing well with others type things, right? We can't just run around and do whatever we want in the systems world anymore. We're much more reined in now than we used to be. We used to just be server administrators and server engineers, and nobody knew what we did. We were basically like the backup operator from hell. Nobody could fire us because nobody knew what we did. But nowadays, I don't want to say there's more Linux engineers out there, but there's, probably not that many more than there used to be, as far as systems and Linux and platform engineers. All right, so I feel pretty good about this lab as far as the book goes. There's the questions over there. We were adding to them as we kind of went. And then now we've got to build the next lab. So we'll do the next lab, which is going to be specifically firewall configuration. So we're going to do firewall configuration with the tool Ansible, right? So I'm going to link this lab to people that want to do it. Put it over here on the YouTube side. Turn this back on. Do it over here on, unpin the old lab here. And repin this one. So again, anybody who wants to do the lab with me, it's going to be there for you for the next, we'll say 30 minutes. We'll do 30 minutes on this lab. Whoops. All right, so anybody that wants to do the lab can hop in there with me. Oh, man, it's like the wife leaves and I'm immediately tired. All right, make that a little bigger for you guys. We put the pound sign here. Whoops. Pound sign, whoops, pound sign. And say Ansible Lab 20. Firewall configure. Right? And this one is going to be lab link. And we will do the same lab link that I just gave you guys. And then we'll put together this. Hey, how's it going, Robodom? I'm streaming a lot because the wife just drove out of here about, 20-30 minutes ago whenever I hopped on. 30 minutes ago. She just drove out of here. She's going on a scrapbook retreat with her friends. So, yeah, we're adding more pieces to this. And the lab is pinned if anybody wants to do it with me. And this one is one of our newer ones. And it says right here, create a playbook to push web and database environment. So we're going to build an environment, and then we're going to do some stuff with the environment. Real quick, if we were to draw this up, right? If we were to say, hey, let's just make a new one of these in here. We'll make a new file and call this, Ansible firewall deploy, right? What's going on? Dot rename. What do I rename that? There we go. Dot. Might be bright for a second. Ooh, bright. Let's change the background. Make that background all zeros. Boom. There we go. All right. So now, what are we doing here, right? Like, anytime we do anything, we want to think about what we're kind of doing, right? So, we have two servers here. If I can draw these two little guys out here. So here's going to be our two servers, right? And we are going to configure these two servers. One of them is going to be web. Oh, that's too thick. Much too thick. It's going to be web and DB, right? And if you've got a web server and a database server, web is typically going to be port 80, maybe 80, 80, maybe 443, and maybe 8443. Those are kind of common web ones, right? And then your database is going to be 3306 if you're like a MariaDB or a whatever. But here's the thing. When you slap a firewall on the front of this, your firewall has to allow these through. Otherwise, it's just not going to allow things through, right? So the firewall has to be turned on to allow 3306 to listen and 80 to listen. Your firewall has to allow that. If your firewall is set up to just as a host-based firewall, if it's blocking things, then it does not matter what ports you have open. I need you guys to know that. If you're doing host-based firewalls, which I wouldn't say is nearly as common as you would think, host-based firewalls will not allow a device to listen unless it's supposed to. Some host-based firewalls that are pretty common is technically security groups inside of AWS are a host-based firewall. And you say, really? And you say, yeah, because they're actually applied to the interface that's attached to the host. So they're considered a host-based firewall. Other ones that are like this are Firewall D. Firewall D is on the Red Hat side. IP tables can technically do kernel level filtering and blocking of stuff, right? Dropping. And then the one we're going to use here is uncomplicated firewall, but that's just because that's the way this kind of works. So our lab steps are like this. One, going to make env, right? We got to set these things up. We're going to make sure our web and our DB is good. That's step one. Two will be lock it down. Lock it down. And then three will be let good traffic through. That's it. That's all we're going to do. Let the good traffic through. So make the environment, lock it down, let the good traffic through. That's what we're going to do. It says right here, your team has a deployment of web server and database environment. They want to secure the environment so that only the ports that should be exposed are exposed on the correct servers. You have researched and found that UFW, that's the uncomplicated firewall, can do this, and you can configure it with Ansible in the playbook. All right, so that's what this lab is right here. If anybody clicks on the lab, that's what it's going to take you to. Okay, so we are going to set up the servers to expose the correct port numbers. The web server, because we still want to be able to manage it, is going to have port 22 open, that's SSH, as is the database server, so we can connect to our servers. Port 80 and port 3306 are going to be the web server, 80, and database servers 3306. Okay, I say make sure that you can connect to those servers on the exposed ports. So we're going to set up the environment, make sure everything works. That's our first part. So here's our root hosts. There's our control plane and our node 01. One of them is the NAP database and one of them is the NAP web. That's good. We'll look at our root packages install. And here's our environment getting set up. We're going to debug the app just so we can see it. See what the variable is there, but we can see it's database and web. Then, if you're a web server, you're going to get these packages. And if you're a database server, you're going to get these packages. That's how our lab starts. That's all we're doing, right? So let's run that playbook and watch it build in our environment. We should see it skip the nodes that it's not going to run on. We should see it do all the things that it needs to do, right? The other reason I can spend a lot of time on this next few days is because I don't have a college class starting again until Monday. So this was a week break. We only get a week break twice a year at DeVry. Most of the time we roll right into our next classes. But I actually had to do some, there's this tool we're using called uCertify, and I had to go take that training today to see how to get these students into this. like lab environment. So I'll spend some time on some web training today and stuff. So that's always fun. So look, the one server that's a web server is getting configured as a web server, and the one server that's a database server is getting configured as a database. Yeah, it was okay, Robedom. It wasn't terrible. By the way, guys, we're at like, it's funny. We spent a long time right at like 980 people, and then we got to 1,000, and then I don't want to say like we've blown up, but we've had a good number. We're almost at 1,050, so we're really moving along on the old Discord. I mean, Discord's always going to be free. You guys are welcome to hang out down there, talk shop, share memes, complain. We got a little complaints department that's pretty popping. One of the guys like walked out of work the other day, and I'm like, I've been there. I've legitimately just gotten up and walked out of work. Wasn't even mad. Just was like, I don't really know why I'm doing any of this stuff. It was years ago. I was a lot younger, but I mean, I get it. I get like the stress of like what's going on can get to people. I get it a lot. So, you guys are welcome to hang out down there. We got a little chat bot that'll talk to you if you want. There's lo-fi down in the music channel or in the channels if you want to sit around and study. People hang out down there. Me and Salty were sitting down. I was really surprised. Me and Salty were on the other day down in the video game channel. Nobody came down there and hang out. It's like, so you got laid off today? Oh, that sucks. Are you keeping the skills sharp? That's important. One of our guys though, he was talking about like possibly like having some conflict with management and stuff. So that's always, and by the way, my contract probably isn't going to keep me past a year. So you guys know that I work for a company and then I get contracted to major like all kinds of different stuff, and they just can't. So I came on the team. There were only 2 people, and I was the third. And then we brought in a 4th, and I've like trained the team up. I've showed them how to do a bunch of stuff. I've kind of brought a lot of the things along. And we just hired a guy the other day who he's probably going to be the guy who, I mean, he's with the company. So we've got the team fully staffed at like 8 people, and I'm the contractor. So I'll probably be the one who, and that's fine. Like I understand it. I'll move on and do something else. But it's Zero Trust solution on the network that's about 8 years old. If you like walking, Mr. Crumbs, that's scary. I tell people all the time, it's very easy to build things net new, and it's very easy for me, and maybe it's not easy for everybody. Maybe this is one of the reasons I'm somewhat good at what I do, but like for me, it's very easy. If you tell me, Scott, go deploy a server and make it look like this, and these are the standards, that stuff's, I don't want to say it's like super easy for me. I'm just saying like that stuff gets done by me. I don't know. It works, right? I build a server, I fix the process, I get it set, and then I automate it and it works, right? And everybody's happy. But if you told me to do that to servers that were already there, I'd be like, oh man, I mean, I can modify what's there, but something that's like 8 years old, like something that's 8 years old, it's almost like you're walking on like a rotted old, like I used to do when I was younger. I used to do roofing with my uncle, and we would walk on people's roofs sometimes, and it would be like rotted, and we'd be like, we have to pull all this wood off and put new wood on because we literally don't even have anything to put the paper and the shingles on. Like this roof is so like rotted underneath. There's no, so that's kind of how I feel like with servers. Now it's not exactly the same thing. Look, guys, servers don't rot, but they get changed, and any changes on like a stateful server become what we call bespoke. Things that are bespoke are set up in such a way that you can't, like I have servers right now that have been up in my environment since I don't know, probably 5 years. And you say, Scott, can you do all your Ansible stuff and get it exactly like it is? I would tell you no. I can't. That server's been up since well before I ever even came on. I can make it look pretty good. I can pull it all off and put new wood on it. But if you're telling me like, Scott, could you do all that and make sure that it has exactly that one like Perl, version of something that somebody was using, I literally can't do that. Now, I have a nice environment where all of my libraries are off somewhere else in our GPFS and that kind of stuff. But my point in saying that is like net new is 100% always easier than supporting things. In fact, one of the things I wrote this the other day. I wrote this for work. Some of you guys were here for this the other day. Ansible. This is my Ansible. I wrote this for work the other day on stream here, and it's don't worry guys. It's I don't show anything that's wouldn't I get in trouble if I showed my feet? I have jujitsu feet, so like I could put my feet up, but no, I wouldn't do that. No, I don't do any of that feet stuff. People always talk about like when are you doing? They're always like, when are you doing your hot tub stream? And I'm like, no, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that at all. But I did this the other day. Look, and this will highlight what I'm talking about. Some of you are going to look at this and go, but why? But why? And I'll tell you why. It's because we've got a monolithic sudoers file. A lot of people, yeah, King Buns. You weren't the one I was thinking of, but I was talking about somebody else that had walked out of work the other day. But I seem to recall, King Buns, you had a conflict the other day too. But somebody mentioned the other day that they just like walked out, and I was like, yeah, I've literally, legitimately been there. Yeah, hot tub. That's that. Where's my? Hold on, I don't have a good one for hot tub. I have this. I can answer that for money, but that sounds like I'm getting paid for it then. Let's see. Homer, this is kind of me with my not realizing that I could just stop it all. Anyways, back to the sudoers thing real quick. Sudoers sometimes inflates. And what I mean by that is over time, again, things change. And then you've got this big, just monolithic crap sudoers file. And if anything gets pulled out in a running system, some service or whatever has been running forever breaks. So what I did here, this is almost like, if you guys have ever seen one of those old, there's like a barn somewhere, and they're like, okay, we're lifting the barn up, and they have like 30 jacks, like 30 hydraulic jacks, and they lift it up, and then they put it on these they slide boards under it, and then they lift it, and they like move it 500 feet, and then put it back down again. That's kind of what this is doing to sudoers. It's taking a backup of the original sudoers, so I don't break anything. Then I'm checking to make sure that sudoers outdated doesn't exist. If it does exist, then this part won't work. This will only happen if sudoers outdated doesn't exist. So this is a conditional check. This is how you do it in Ansible. You register that it's there, and then if it's not there, you do this, right? So when it's not there, that's what that is. That's a return code check of 1, which means it wasn't found with the ls. ls failed, right? So this runs only if it needs to the first time. But what it does is it moves the sudoers file out from where it is, and then I copy in this little bullshit small sudoers that I have. And then right here, there's this little fix you got to do where this is actually a pound sign in Red Hat, but in Ubuntu it's an @ sign. And that's our includer. You got to pull it off, otherwise it'll recursively go down into directories forever, and it'll break everywhere. Anyways, we tested this on stream the other day, right? Where I'm going with this, though, is I had to do this because I need to preserve the permissions that are there, but I have to let that shit die in future versions of my servers and go to the more modern way of doing things, where anything I deploy, any permissions I give you, like let's say King Buns is on a dev team and he needs certain sudo permissions on his dev environment over like 10 nodes, and his whole team does, right? And they're a team in Active Directory, so they're inheriting these groups into my Linux servers, because my Linux servers with SSSD or Kerberos and authconfig can read those groups out, right? Anyways, what I can do is I can say, okay, on all 10 of his servers, when I deploy whatever else I'm deploying in his environment for him, because I've got root, I can also lay down the sudoers file that's in etcsudoers.d called King Buns developers, whatever I call his team, whatever his team is known as in our organization, and it can inherit it can give sudoers permission to just those 10 servers, and they'll be their own file here in etcsudoers.d. So etcsudoers.d, any of the .d directories in Linux are they're modular. You can think of them as like little plugins where you can extend. So you've got a sudoers file in etcsudoers, and everything in .d becomes an extension of that file. It's actually literally, as it's processed, it's appended to the end of the file. That's exactly what happens. And you say, how do you know that for certain? I know that for certain because if you set something in etcsudoers and you override it down here, it'll be overridden because it read etcsudoers first, appended the thing that you did, and changed it. Don't do that, though, guys. You do not want to try to figure out where precedence is coming from inside of this. Just please believe you do not want that. In fact, when we did this, when I brought it into work, we changed it to 00, so this always happened first before anything else. But that's still a dangerous thing. Hey, Quartz, how's it going? We're just We're doing some Linux. We're doing a little bit of Ansible right now, and we're working on the book. And I was showing this as an example of something. I don't know what I was showing that for. Oh, maintaining environment sucks. All right. So if this deployed an environment brand new, all of these things should work. And by the way, if you guys have never used Netcat, Netcat is the basis for how all of Nmap works. In fact, some of these commands kind of look like Nmap, right? But anyways, or the outputs, right? So look what we did. We did a timeout because I didn't want it to hang on anything. And then I did a bunch of netcats. I used the -VZ, and it'll only just tell me verbose of what's going on. And you got to be careful. Different netcat do different things. Sometimes netcat -V will give you the version, so you don't always want it. And sometimes Z behaves differently. But in this version, it works fine. And we said the node and the port. So I would expect node 01, which is the Apache web server, to be able to be connected to on port 80. I also expect port 22, which is SSH, to also be open. By the way, we haven't locked anything down yet. Then they also have this BS port. This is a port that's, if we do an SS NTULP, what's that for? This is just some, what was that? What, 40200. 40200. Yeah, it's just some generic port for KC terminal. It's part of the lab environment, right? They've got this port open probably so SSH can connect or whatever, right? Good. But right now, it's able to be connected to because it's listening, and there's nothing locking this environment down yet. Then we do the same thing for control plane. We expect 3306 to be up. Well, it's a database server, so that's exposed. Now note, that's only exposed from this machine, and you say, well, Scott, how would you know that? Well, I would do ss-ntlp grep-i for 3306. You don't need the -i, but this database server right now, without any configuration change, is only set to listen on localhost. So this database, when you first bring a database server up, one of the things you probably have to change is the way that the listener behaves. Because this listener is only connecting from this machine. So you say, well, I've got my database already and I've loaded the data, but nothing can connect to it. Well, you've got to go check to make sure, are you really listening for anybody on 3306, or are you only listening to your local? And that's the default way that it comes up. That's a pretty common thing. You can go find 100 blog posts on how to change that, right? But then we click this again and we see port 22. We expect that to be open, in the same low 40200 port. I'm very glad that port is open in this environment, because we're not going to allow that in our next part. Once we block this off with UFW, we are not going to nobody's at my house, so when I hear things outside of this room, it's very weird to me. And let me check on Ranger, my guard dog, ladies and gentlemen. My guard dog, look at him. He does not look like he's guarding very hard right here. Alright. Ranger's not guarding me very hard. Alright, if all this has worked, you've completely set up your lab. Not need to hear that. Yeah, there's like a car that was driving by, but it almost sounded like somebody was walking by in my the road. Well, so it's weird. I have a road behind my house too, and that's like the bigger, more major road, and then I've got kind of the smaller road into my neighborhood that's in front of my house. So my house is roads on both sides. I don't have a neighbor behind me, and I'm on the second floor, so I can hear car. And somebody was just bumping music loud, so it sounded almost like steps, you know. Anyways, but yeah, you guys are supposed to tell me if anybody pops up in that doorway, because nobody's here in my house right now. Ranger. Yeah. Ranger's gotten all the snacks he needs for today, but I'll go give him a snack later for you guys, because I know you guys like seeing Ranger eat. It's like something. It's like something on the internet. Everybody. First of all, Ranger's a really good dog, but everybody likes seeing him happy. And so it's been like 90s in Phoenix. In fact, today I think it got to like it was only 94 today, I think, because it was 4 degrees cooler than yesterday. But when it gets warm, I notice him do this more. You see how he's got his nose down on the tile? It's 73 downstairs, so don't you guys worry. He's nice and cool. But he likes to put his nose on like the cool tile when he breathes, like just like a thing he has. So he's got his nose. He's got these 2 really nice beds, but he likes to put his nose on like the tile, like the side of his face, because that's like tile here. And then he's got this this must have gotten moved because you can't really see his. He's got a carpet over here because he was having joint problems, so we didn't want him sliding on the tile too much. So he's got carpet, and then the carpet goes all the way till he goes outside. Anyways, all right, that's enough about Ranger. You guys can see him later. We'll check on him later. But now we're going to set up the firewall and verify that only the enabled ports can get through. So this was our positive test. We need to when we close a door or we lock a door or any of those things, we test the functionality of a thing that it opens when we want it to. When we're done locking down and securing whatever, putting a deadbolt on it, whatever, the next logical thing to do is rattle the handle and make sure you can't get it going, right? So as we define here on the left, right, what we expect to see here when we're done doing this lab is we should see 80 succeeding and 22 succeeding, but not 40,200. And then we expect to see 3306 and 22 succeeding, but not 40,200 down here, right? So there you go. So here's over here. You've been extremely successful. Now you need to secure the environment so that nothing else can connect on any of the ports that are not allowed. So use UFW module in Ansible to secure the two servers as required by your GRC. GRC is a very common team. You will have a GRC team. If you're in any corporation on planet Earth, when I say corporation, I mean somebody who is issued stock and is a entity that is designed with some kind of C structure, you will have a GRC team. You have a governance, risk, and compliance. Some of you guys, I know some of you guys are like smaller startups or something. Your security teams are probably doing a lot of things, and one of the things they're trying to adhere to is GRC. They may not have a standard like governance, risk, and compliance team yet, but I can guarantee you if you're taking credit cards, that security team is dealing with compliance to PCI standards, PCI DSS, which is your ability to take payment card industry stuff, right? And just in August of last year, payment card industry standard, the PCI DSS standard 4 came out and had to be adhered to. So now you have to make sure that you're compliant. You got to do internal audits, third-party auditors, and then you got to make sure you're in compliance and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, these guys are going to be out there, but compliance is only one part of it. It's also governance, making sure there's not drift in systems. Are we actually managing all of our stuff? And then risk. What is an acceptable risk type appetite to our organization, right? And all kinds of organizations have risk appetite that they accept, and they have what we call security posture. Security posture is like everything that comes up, we don't allow port 22 on anymore. We only use these type of connections, and that's whatever your organization allows, right? All right, anyways, you may try to write the playbook yourself. Please do. Or the solution will walk you through it the first time. I tell you guys all the time this example of going to the gym. Your friends that go to the gym are not going to sit you down and be like, okay, this is the gym for 45 minutes or an hour. They're just going to make you follow them around. And that's how I do these labs. Like, I want you to look at the pieces and see what's happening. I had to add this for inspector diameter the other day during stream. But this was added for inspector diameter, who I don't think he's here right now, to remind everyone to inspect the diameter. So he wanted to inspect the diameter of the firewall, so that's a comment that will always be in this lab. And then this says uncomplicated firewall setup. You can do any name you want there. You should make it something that's memorable to you. The hosts are servers, so that's going to go against that host group inside of our normal inventory file. We want to gather facts true. We need that to be able to stamp our data later, specifically our Ansible datetime.date and those variables that are going to be in there. Something memorable to me, yeah. Something, because these aren't quite like, the term self-documenting doesn't fit, but these are what I call like CMDB friendly. So most of us, when we go to do a change, we have to put in a CMDB, a configuration management database record. It's almost like the systems engineering world's version of like a Git push. Like, it's, how everything goes up to Git for you software guys. Well, in the database, or in the database side too, but on the server side, we don't always have a thing that defines everything about our system. But the configuration management database is supposed to help with that. And if we do change management right, things will always be up there so that we could hopefully rebuild a server, like I was talking about earlier, these bespoke servers that are in a fucking configuration that nobody could ever build again, right? We want to stay away from that in the systems world. It's everything gets further and further away from how it was originally built, and it becomes very difficult to ever get back to that in a critical situation. So something to think about in your systems world. It's one of the reasons I like redeploying servers over time, as opposed to just keep configuring them and keeping them going forward and patching them and that kind of stuff. That's the stateful versus stateless debate. Anyway, so if we want to, we can debug the variable of app. And then we come down here and we're going to turn on the firewall for both machines. And the policy that we're going to enable is deny, so it's going to block everything. Then we're going to allow on both of them OpenSSH. That is the name of the rule that's inside of the firewall by default. Then we're going to allow port 80 if it's the web server. So if you have the web server, just like you did in the web deployment, we're going to allow the rule Apache. And we inspect that rule in one of our other labs. So if you guys, we'll actually be doing that lab here in a little bit for the Linux stuff, because I have to add that in the book. But so we've got that. And then we're going to allow, if you're a database server, if you're a database in the app, I don't have a rule name like Apache for this. So I had to go a different way. I have to say allow port 3306 with TCP. So I'm going to allow a TCP connection on 3306, which is, this is like a individual, like this is just a non-named, like we've created the connection. This is a name that just, this would have been the exact same thing here as me saying port 80 proto TCP. So if I had just grabbed these two pieces here and put them up here instead of a name, I could have done port 80 protocol TCP. And this would have been, instead of being a web server by name, it would have been web server by the port. So you can configure things different ways. You can even go out of your way and define your own configurations if you want. These are defined inside of flat files. We can change that stuff if we want, right? Anyway, so I say, look at this, and then I say, let's run it. Let's see what happens. So it's going to go. It's going to set up the firewall. It's actually going to do, from back here on our little drawing, when it's done. This is what I was saying earlier about, this is configuration management database friendly. I can come here, and I can say, guys, you know what? I ran this playbook during the change. Change was successful. You mark your change successful, not like successful with errors or backed out with errors or any of those things. You say successful, you drop this all in there, and then you go back to watching Netflix or whatever you were doing, right? I tell you guys all the time, like I hit thousands of servers with Ansible at night, and it will just be like green and blue like this, just scrolling by. Sometimes it'll be yellow, sometimes it'll be green, and then when it's red, then I gotta go, oh, okay, hit pause on Netflix, go fix the thing or whatever. But for the most part, I test my stuff out, so I don't have that problem. But let's go look at our UFW status here. So if you're on this server, we've got 3306 open, and we're allowing anything in for, this is IPv4 and also IPv6. So we didn't specify, so it allowed both. And then down here, we're allowing Apache in, and that's just fine. That works just fine for us. So now we're going to come down here and we're going to run, we split our test case. We're going to test everything that we think should still work right here. Boom. So we expect node 01 to give us 80. That's the web. We expect it to give us 22, which is SSH. Good. Then we go. We do a test against control plane, but only from control plane because that's the only one that it would listen to anyways. And my system can connect, and that's fine. Good. And then we SSH over to node 01 and see if we can hit port 22 back this way, and we can. So it's good. Then here's the two that we expect to break. The 40,200 should no longer work that way, and SSHing to node 01 and testing it back this way should no longer work either. That's a thing that we expected right there. That's what we call a expected output, right? So we built the doors, tested them that they worked, locked everything down, put the deadbolt on two of them, and we went and shook the doors and said, yeah, I mean, that looks locked up to me. I'm not connecting anymore. A little while ago we tested it and we did connect. Now we do not. So it makes sense that it's blocked out. I said, do you see the timeouts on the ports that you expect to? Did this deployer act as you expected? What could you do to improve this operation? Again, you could hard code these. You could write this for specifically port 80. You could open up any other ports. A lot of guys in dev, a very, very, very common open API port that will open up uh, I see API ports open all the time on port 5000. I feel like every lab I've ever seen, or like any like workshop people do, they always pick 5000 or 6000 for their APIs. Maybe there's some other one that's common, but that's the one I see a lot. And maybe you just write that custom right here, and that would be super easy. Look right there, boom. Maybe you also need UDP, so you can allow UDP as well, and you can configure that in the same one. I think you could do TCP comma UDP, right? You should be able to do that. But anyway, so we hit check here, and it goes. This one, I thought I fixed this, but it's still giving a little bit of error. But it's still going to finish the lab. It doesn't matter that it says it's going to say timeout over here. That's fine. Um, don't worry about the timeout. And it just says, look at you learning Ansible. You created a playbook to set up a host-based firewall on multiple systems. You were able to configure different ports based on applications on the servers. So there you go. That's a way to do it. That's not the only way to do it, but that is a way to do it. And this right here would be perfectly acceptable for me. I could make this work against any of like the entire clusters that I work on. I work on clusters that are 1200 to 2600 nodes. In fact, I might be going. I think I was telling you guys like my 1 year contract at the current college that I'm on is kind of coming up, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep me full time. They're probably going to keep me like half time, and then I'll work that out with my company. But I'm probably going to be going to this NASA project, and that system has 16,000 nodes. So I know one of the things they're going to ask me in this interview is like, hey, what's your automation look like? What's your, what do you do when you come in? And I've hopefully I've hammered this so much with you guys that you guys know exactly what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, 1, I'm going to check your version of Ansible. 2, I'm going to check your inventory. 3, I look immediately, if the inventory is not right, I immediately look to build it daily. I do daily inventory builds from wherever my sources of truth are. Those are like my first 3 things. Check what version of Ansible I have, check what inventories I got. If I need to fix it, I automatically build them. And I build them, even if I build them into my own directory. I always build my own inventories, because then I can control everything in the system. And I'm telling you guys, like this is, people say, oh, something sounds like it's Chad. People always want me there when there's like trouble, and they always want me there when there's something to work on or troubleshoot, because I always have all the inventories. I always know where all the servers are. And it's not because I keep it up here, it's because I keep it in my little inventories. And I show them to people all the time. I don't keep anything, like guys, I don't have sleeves on. I don't keep anything up my sleeves. I don't keep any of these tricks to myself. I show them to the engineers. I'm showing them to you guys. But this very simple stuff works as long as your inventories are good and as long as your methodology is right. So I show you guys this stuff because you can do it. And I tell you, I was telling this the other day too. If you guys are doing any of these labs and you're like, oh, that would work in my environment, take it. Not mine. You guys do whatever you want. I'm not, this was stolen when I got a hold of it, right? Hold on a second, guys, real quick. I gotta take this call, maybe. Give me 1 second, real quick. Guys, I need 1 minute. Let me put my little break thing up. Hourglass. I'm just gonna say quick break, and I will be right back, guys. Feel free to work on some stuff. Get into this lab. I'll be right back, guys. Hey. Play Devil Song. What is that? I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? All right, I'm back, guys. Sorry. That was one of my old army buddies. He wanted to talk jujitsu. And I always talk jujitsu if people want to talk it. All right. I didn't miss any followers. It didn't look like anybody's done too much wild stuff while I was gone. All right. Let's keep going with the lab then. So, let's go to Ansible UFW module. And it's the community general one. And let's go look at so let's go here and let's say, how could you allow Apache by just its port number? And then let's say 2 would be, why is it important to have the policy deny as you initially turn on the firewall? Well, because if you don't turn on a deny policy, everything's allowed. That's how we get your attention. Yeah, Robodom, if you call me and ask about jiu-jitsu, I'll definitely stop and talk to you, even if I'm streaming. No, that's maybe not true. Although, fun fact, I did find a kind of fun game that I would play on here later if we're still hanging out, depending on how long I'm on. So, let's say right here that I wanted to go to digging deeper. And the first digging deeper would be read the UFW module information here. And how would you allow all RFC 1918 networks? What are those networks? And what do they represent? Let me ask you guys this, and you can go to Google if you want. Does anybody know what these networks are? Does anybody in the chat here? I'm not, look, when I ask you guys stuff, when I'm doing like Socratic and having you think about stuff, I'm not doing it to like stump you guys and be like, you guys are dumb as fuck, you don't know any of this. That's not how I ask things. That's not like my intention here. My intention here is to make you think about things, because maybe you're like, I do know that most of the time when I work somewhere it's 10 or 172.16 or 192.168, but I never thought about why. Well, guys, there's a real reason why. And maybe you kind of know why. Maybe you're like, well, this ones tend to be internal. But did you know, well, I'll wait to see if anybody wants to answer, but what is an RFC 1918? Has anybody here ever read that? Do you guys know how you read an RFC? That's the technical implementation guide, right? If you go click on it, IETF keeps the RFCs. This is the actual implementation for the address allocation for private internets. So I can have a private internet, and you can have a private internet, and everybody gets a private internet, right? Like I did the little Oprah meme. But did you know that these numbers right here are unroutable on the internet? These numbers right here, it's the same thing. Like if I pop up on stream here and I'm like, and people are like, you're doxing yourself, you're showing your, no, I'm not. These can't route. These can't, you can't go to this and get to my system. That's not how this works. It's not how any of this works, right? This is not one of these. This is like, who cares? This is internal routing. It's non-routable on the internet. You can encapsulate it and move it over the internet, but you cannot route this over the internet. Not without some type of wrapper on it. Some type of other thing has to happen for this to move over the internet. Just so you guys know. All right, how would you set, so I'm going to say, how would you set a comment in a configuration you make? And there's a comment. There's a little comment block right there. So you can use comment. And then how would you set, here's a good question. How would you set a range from, I don't know, let's say 1024 to 65 534. Why might you want to allow that range? So, why do we need 3 different private IP ranges? Well, you don't, strictly speaking, you don't need any more, but this one right here, 192.168 like this right here with the /16 on it is limited internally to this. You are limited right here to 65,534 because you lose 2 addresses, 65,536, right? The other ones I can't do in my head. I'd have to go here and say the other one is 2 raised to the power of what's left over from this, which is 20. This would be, this network here would be if you needed at least 1,048,574, because you got to lose 2 total addresses. And this network right here is if you needed 2 raised to the power of 24, because that's what's left over. What I'm doing is I'm subtracting these from 32, right? That's how I'm getting these numbers. Look at this. How big is this? That's 16,777,000. So yeah, 777,214 usable, right? So you could have different ones. Can I tell you guys how I've seen them used? So when I used to work at the Peoria School District, we used a 10, right? And what we did was the 10 was just the internal network. But this octet right here can represent between the number 0 and the number 255. So if I were to split this as a /16, right, and this is variable length subnet masking, right here can be 10.0, 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. Well, what they do in that school district, and I bet they still do this, is each school gets assigned a number, both grade schools and high schools. And those grade schools and high schools then have whatever their school number is. Like Peoria High School was 60 when I worked there. So 10.60 was always traffic going to Peoria High School, always. And then you say, well, how big is the network inside of that then? So it's 10.60 dot whatever, and this would be a /16 then over here for the hosts. That's 65,534 total usable addresses internal to that high school network. That's huge. They probably only have at any time maybe 3,000 IP addresses used. Blue fan. So yeah, so that's, by the way, if you guys want to go read that technical guide, did I link it to you guys? Hold on, just RFC 19. I don't know if I linked it to you guys or not, but here's the link if you want. This is the type of reading that'll put you to sleep at night, right? But if you guys have never read a technical implementation guide, they're all the RFC guides. Yeah. So there are limitations on the rest of the space that exists out there. Yeah. I try not to read either, Blue fan, but we're engineers, so we have to sometimes, right? But yeah, look at this. All these things. You can limit this down by the source. I can allow only specific sources, or this case. This would be a really easy way to lock this network down. Look at this rule right here. 172.16 dot whatever, but what if I come over here and I say, what is my IP adder? What is my internal IP right here? And another way is IPR will show me the networks that I have. But I'm on a 172.30, right, /24, which means that everything in my network here matches 172.30.1 in my internal network. Well, if I only want this device to talk to devices on its network, I could set all of those same rules that I just did, but give them a source of 172.30.1/24 right here, just like this, from a source. Yeah, and the source can be, see, in this case, it's just this is 172, whatever I just said. slash, and you give the slash CIDR notation, right? That's the classless interdomain routing notation, right, for the network. And again, what this says is, what this says right here, /8, says to me to match 10, don't change 10, and all of this internal can be whatever it wants. Hey, thanks for the follow. Speakers, hopefully Ranger is not impressed, as you guys can see. Yawning Ranger, not impressed with us doing Linux. This one's 172.16 says to match to 12 bits when we're looking at the bits. So it's these first 8 plus the next 4, which if you're matching to 16, that means it's going to match all the way. Yeah, it's going to match at that bit place. So 0001, which is the 16. So it's only going to match anything that's underneath the 16, right? And I've shown you guys that before. Like, we don't have to dig into that too much right now. But if somebody one day is interested, I'll definitely, guys, I will always do more subnetting, right? Subnetting's like, it's like easy time for me, right? So hold on, let me move this here a little bit. This is my subnetting template that I use. This is in our Discord. This is free. You guys can use this if this is interesting to you. And I can, what I mean by that when I was saying earlier 16 is it matches to right here. That's 8, 4. Sorry, 12. 12 was earlier, so 8 plus 4 was 12. That's where it matched. That's where it matched earlier. And that's correct. It is logical ANDing. So if you guys don't know, that's how a system knows its network versus its subnet mask, is it's a logical ANDing of the bits. And all the true bits are subnet masks, so it's almost like a platform where all the network stays and all the other hosts bits fall off. It's a logical ANDing, this bit and them bit. And I've shown that before too, but Demiond is right about that. Or Diamond. Yeah, it's almost like diamond, but different. Okay, so that's a thing that we could do. That's a thing that we could mess with if we wanted to. And I think that that's a good thing to know. We didn't do any of this stuff in the lab, but there's all these different things that we could do. We could even block explicitly certain things. You could get real deep into this stuff if you guys wanted to. And that's the goal of these labs, is to like show you guys that there's a lot of, like, my goal with the labs is to show you guys the basic stuff and then have you spin off and go, oh, that's interesting. I could take this and use this somewhere, and then you modify it a little bit. And then, you know, if that's useful to you, then you go dump it in the Discord in our Ansible, in our Ansible code channel. And we have stuff in there that some of us have been writing code in that channel for like 5 years now. So there's all kinds of old Ansible shit in there that you can search. Or if you find anything useful, you can ask the author of it, because all the guys that I know that have posted in there, me, Pico, M-Pesa, all of those guys are still around. They're all still kicking. They're all still doing Ansible. So if this stuff is useful to you and you want to hit a lot of servers and get into the automation of your tasks and stuff, this is where, you could go work on that stuff. Yeah, Robodon, people can ask. I mean, I tell you guys all the time, like the goal of our group is to make other people better and get people into doing this professionally. So, like, I've told, like, especially the guys that are in like our ProLug engineering group, which is people that have just been around the server a little bit longer. I've told them, I'm like, guys, we're not here to hammer people. If people ask a question that's been asked 10 days in a row, let's still just tell them the answer, because like they're probably here, like they've probably asked in other places and gotten yelled at, and I've never liked that online culture of just like, no fuck you, go read it. Like, and look, sometimes you gotta ask a question, right? Because you're already stuck maybe on something, and then so there's a lot of that with engineers, guys. I know engineers that if they talk to you for 5 minutes and they don't think you're on the same page with them, they will turn back to their desk and not talk to you anymore. I literally know engineers that are like that, and that never sat well with me, because I'm like, it's not a good way to handle business in my mind. All right. Oh, let me take this eye. I got an extra eye over there. Digging deeper. All right. I think that's pretty good for the firewall configure. All right, so that's the last of these labs that I needed to do. So that was our Ansible stuff. Let's go back over here, and let's go to our Linux labs. We got more Linux labs than I had before. So we're gonna go all the way back up here in the go page up here. All right, the Ansible stuff's looking better. All right, now we're in the Linux stuff. And moving into automation. Okay, Linux Lab 204 is building a CH root jail. All right, we gotta go find all our Linux stuff. So the problem with the Linux stuff is I don't even know what is new anymore or where I put it. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna go here and let's get out of here. Find save changes. I don't care. Maybe we'll cancel. We'll keep that up. Let's go look at our Linux stuff. So over here in our Prolog Labs and our Linux stuff, here's all of our new stuff, right? Sorry, not all this stuff is new. But I have new stuff in here. So now I got to figure out how to get over there. Yeah. All right, where are we at here? Hold on, let me move this over because I don't need this up here. And let me see, do we have... this is how I'm going to find it, guys. Watch. I'm going to come here. And at the top of the lab guide, there's this labs, Linux labs. And it looks like this. And we do have an install Slurm. So let's see if we got that in there. So system checking is there. Checking kernel packages is there. Checking disk and mount information is there. Checking network imports is there. SSH and SCP is there. Screen commands is there. Wait, is working with DNS there? Yeah, working with DNS is there, good. Variables and conditional logic is there. That's down here. And then conditionals and counting loops are there, good. And then configure NFS shares are there. Configuring Apache server is there. Got all our monitoring stuff. We need to do our monitoring stuff just to make sure it all still works. Yeah. Fisherman hammers people. Oh yeah. Fisherman. He's got a bot that used to be real mean to people, but I think he's got the bot toned down, so you can ask questions in there, and it doesn't answer you as a salty old Unix admin anymore. Because I think that's how he had it set. Because it was real salty for a while there. People didn't even like asking it questions because it would complain about not getting servers completed and stuff. Okay, monitoring Influx Grafana, that's got a lot of stuff, lots of things. Installing antivirus, that's there. And then installing Slurm, apparently we added that one, so that's good. Attempted user login, okay. Attempted sudo access, that's there. Building a golden image, building a CH root jail. And then we have setting up the uncomplicated firewall, which is not here. So, let's grab, just make it look like that. So, oops, #, Linux Lab 205, setting up UFW. Okay. And then, what do we have? Lab link. And this one, we're going to set up the lab link as this lab right here. And I'll also link this to you guys that want to do the lab with me. So there's our lab link. And something's happening. Thanks for the follow. G. Macklin, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Let me find, real quick, pull this lab up. Let's get the lab for you guys. So the lab's going up on the YouTube side, and then there's the lab on the, open the lab on the, over here. Now, the lab will, just so you guys know, labs are free. They don't, Killer Coda is free. You just got to sign up for it. And when I say sign up, you can just use Google Federated Access. They don't even send me anything in my email, so they're not really very bothersome. And they are probably my favorite thing on the web for showing people Linux, because literally anybody that wanted to do Linux right now You say, hey, I suck at Linux and nobody will teach me. You could literally be in the same thing as me right now. So you could follow along and do Linux with me. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm the best guy that can teach you Linux, but I definitely am here trying to show it to you. So you could ask me questions if you need whatever. Here's the thing. Your team is determined they need to run a firewall on all the hosts to protect them from the inevitable compromise of your system. Okay. Maybe some manager's been reading about zero trust models and somebody's talking about that kind of stuff. It's coming, right? People want things to be more secure. One of the base things that you can do is just lock up a firewall everywhere. Now, zero trust, strictly speaking, is dealing with having your devices talk over certificates, and only the devices and systems and apps that should talk will. And if you want to dig into that, we have one of our members of our community wrote this or helped write this, and you guys, this is a free book as well. So there it is. I'm gonna link it over on the YouTube site as well. That's a free book on how this all works. So you can go read about that if you're hearing rumblings from management and that kind of stuff, and people going to Gartner conferences and they're hearing about this kind of stuff. That's what they want to talk about. That's the problem right there, and that's the solution, or a solution for the problem, with open source tooling too, which is kind of cool. The goal here is to have your systems only capable of exposing the ports that you want to have, and then documented and agreed upon with your security team. So you and your security team sat down and they said, hey, you can have the ports open that are allowed to be open on a web server, which is 80 and maybe 443, and you can have 22 connected to, those kind of things. These are the only things you're allowed to do. So I say check the status of the uncomplicated firewall, turn on and enable it if it's not, and then verify the current state. Just make sure it's on. We haven't even set up any rules or nothing. We're just going to turn it on. So we SSH over to node 01. We check that it's on. Here's the UFW status. It's not doing anything. It's inactive. And the service is enabled, meaning it'll come up when the server is rebooted, and it's currently active. It's got a PID, a process ID, so we can go inspect what it's doing if we want. And it's there. By the way, if you want to inspect what it's doing, ps-ef, and then maybe just grep for 369, and then you can see, oh, that's weird. Oh, the PID is actually exited, so there's no, probably because it's not doing anything, but there's the PID that had been associated with it. We should be able to CD to proc and that PID number if it's still there. It's not there anymore because it's exited. But if it was there, it would be there. Any processes that are active are always in the proc directory if you haven't played with that. So let's enable the firewall now. And it says it might disrupt SSH connections. We'll say yes, that's fine. And now it says it's enabled. And before we leave this connection, we need to allow OpenSSH through. If we didn't do that, we would have had problems. By the way, when we immediately go and look at the status now, with UFW status, we now see that it's got OpenSSH that's listening to port 22 for IPv4 and IPv6. And then we are very verbose about it, and it says exactly which port and connection type. Is it going to be TCP or UDP, or is it allowing both? Certain things that we allow have to allow both. Like if you're doing DNS, which is port 53, you have to allow UDP and TCP because port 53 DNS requires both. Okay. So I hit check, and it says it's up. I say, so far you've enabled the uncomplicated firewall and verified that you can see the open ports that are allowed to be connected to on your host. So we're going to set up a web server or an Apache 2 server on node 01. Then we're going to verify that from the control plane we cannot get to that server. It's not exposed. Then we're going to allow it and verify that we can then connect to it. Those are our steps right there. That's our logic. Turn on the web server. It's blocked right now. It's currently being blocked. Verify we can't get there. Open it. Verify that we can get there. Right? We're testing these things for ourselves and proving that these things are true, right? So we're still on node 01. We're going to install Apache 2. Take a second. We're going to verify on our local machine that we can see that port being exposed and that it's listening on port 80. That's what we're going to see right here. Got an alarm for 2 minutes. I need to make sure my alarm's off. Okay. Alright, so we're going to make sure our system is listening on port 80. And down here, LSOF-I to a specific port will show us that, yeah, there's things listening for port 80 connections. That's good. This one right here, LSOF-I with a colon, is one of my favorite things. Like if I think a box is compromised or I want to dig in on what processes are actually listening on a port, this is a very useful one. So is SS or netstat. SS is kind of the current thing, and netstat is slowly going away. Less and less modern Linux systems still have netstat on them. But now we're going to exit and go back to our control plane and see, can we connect to node 01 on port 80? Answer to that's going to be no. We did not connect. We had a timeout. I'd say, why do you think you were unable to connect? Well, because the port's not open, right? You're listening, but your firewall is not allowing it. Your firewall back here is not allowing port 80 right here on node 01. So, all right. So SSH over to node 01, and then we'll look at all the apps that are available in Uncomplicated Firewall now. We've got Apache, Apache Full, Apache Secure, and we can look at each one of them and say, well, with the Apache module, the info about it is it's port 80, TCP only. Apache Full is 80 and 443, so that's 80 and 443 by default. And then just Apache Secure, if you do not want to allow somebody to ever connect on port 80 on this box, they must use 443, which is HTTPS. There you go. So there's regular Apache here. There's Apache Full, which is going to allow both. And then there's Apache Secure, which is only going to allow the one. So unsecure, both, secure. That's how those are laid out, right? So we come down here and we're going to allow Apache. We're going to exit, and now we're going to go hit that box, and yeah, we got right in immediately. We immediately connected and saw that there's an Ubuntu page. That's good. So what do you see when it connected was the default Apache page, and it says, look at you learning Linux security. You set up a firewall and open the necessary ports to allow traffic to your server securely. All right. So I've got to make these pieces just because I've done these for all the other Linux labs. So let's come down here. Let's set up these pieces. And it says task, set up a, ooh, I just got bit by something. Uncomplicated firewall on Linux. So task is set up an uncomplicated firewall on Linux. Make sure that the service ports that should be allowed are allowed to be connected to. Okay? And there's, yeah, Robodom posting the book. If anybody wants the book, it is up on LeanPub. And yeah, you got to complete it in 60 minutes. And complete all activities in the lab. Verify that UFW is enabled. Verify that Apache can be externally connected to on node 01. That's the standard. Those are the things that you need to be able to do. Then the reflection questions for this lab are just going to come from what did we do, right? So when you look at this stuff, what did we kind of do in this lab, right? These are always what my little reflection questions are about. Let's say one that I think is pretty good. I go back to node 01. One that I think is important is, what are the differences between UFW status and UFW status verbose. Why might you want to use one or the other? Something I didn't make you guys do, but if you do the app list here before you install Apache, you will not see any of these Apache ones because the definitions for those aren't there until you've installed Apache. Hey, thanks for the follow. Oh shoot, where'd that go? Pete Venkman, hopefully, I think that's right. Yeah, Venkman. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I scrolled down and I couldn't see your name, but yeah, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. What are we doing? We're working on the labs. The labs are free. We're working on the book. The book is slightly less free, but I think it adds some value for people that are really interested in getting into this stuff deeper. Where is... Although you could just watch me do it and then you get all the book stuff anyways, but... Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ansible too. Yeah, in fact, I was just before you got on here, in our labs, if we go to labs, I have 20-something Ansible labs as well. So I use Ansible quite a bit professionally. And here's all our labs down here. Killer Code is a great place in general, but I've got 21 little Ansible labs out here that'll walk you through, for people that don't do it much, a lot of enterprise level stuff. We get up into enterprise level stuff up here. So, okay. What's the difference between UFW status and UFW status verbose? Which you want to use one or the other? Okay. Can you test connecting to port 80 on node 01 even with the firewall blocking? Do you connect? Why do you think this is? Let me ask you guys this. Do you think if you're on node 01, so let's, first of all, there's a great engineering lesson here. One test is worth 1,000 expert opinions, right? Let's go down to that lab and let's test this. Let's turn it on. And before we allow it though, before we allow that port 80, can node 01, listening on itself, bypass that firewall and still see port 80 open? This is an interesting thing. If firewall's on, can a node go to 127.0.0.1 on itself and listen to port 80, even though we just saw that until we allowed it, we were not able to do that from the other one? Let's see this real quick. This is one of those tests, right? Like, we could sit around and guess all we want, but let's test it. Yeah. I think you're right too, Occident Prone, just so you know. Pretty sure you're right. So we're going to enable. Yep. And then we're going to allow OpenSSH only, and we'll see that only OpenSSH is available. Good. Then we're going to come in here and we're going to install the Apache 2 and verify that it's listening, and then we'll do our test. Can we connect to ourselves even though the firewall won't allow control? Watch, so we'll do it right here. In a second, as soon as it's done. So we'll verify we're listening, we're in business. I'm going to hit this curl right here on itself, right? I don't even have to go back to control plane, and I immediately see the page. But then I exit, and I do that same command, and I don't see the page. Yeah, so internally, a firewall doesn't block the 127.0.0.1 loopback. That any traffic that goes through there is not filtered through the firewall. That's important to know. Important to know for testing. Can I test that a box is able to see what it's supposed to see, but not allow something else through? Yes. Yes, I could test this. I know that this web page is working because it shared to me an HTML valid page, but from the other node I can't get in. But I can SSH back in because I allowed SSH before I left. If I didn't allow SSH before I left, I would not be getting back in on SSH right now. You say, Scott, how do you know that? Because I built the lab and I tested it. I'm 100% sure that if you don't have a connection and allow that through, you will not be getting back through. You will be hitting this button and refreshing your lab because your lab's busted at that point. You cannot get back in there. There's no connection back in there. So just so you guys know. And that's good. You're working on real, these are real Linux boxes. These are real KVM nodes. Like they have a real DM ESG. They have a real startup time and a real kernel, and these are real KVM devices, right? They're real servers they give you for an hour each. It's pretty good deal for free, right? I think so anyways. Look at our app list, look at our systems, allow Apache, and then the behavior is now different. We can now see it from the primary node, the first node or whatever, right? So there's that. Okay, so that's that lab. That one's done now. All right, so my last thing to do is we have some data visualizations and stuff, but that's not that big of a deal for right now. All these other things are in there, and I made a decision a while back. We're in the lab book. We only have these two sets of labs, the Ansible labs and the Linux labs. There's one other big Ansible lab that's in there, but it's as part of another lab, and I have it down here in the HashiCorp labs, and you say, why is that? It's because the HashiCorp labs have the, these labs have the, oh, excuse me, sorry, yawning over here. These ones have the vault. So when we did Ansible and read the vault token out, we did it over here. So in one lab, when we're doing API calls with URI module, I show you guys in here how that kind of works, right? So that one is mentioned in one of these labs. All right, so here's the things I need to do with the book then. So we're going to call the book Mostly Done, but Mostly Done is not done. So let's go to our useful links here. And, I got a publish page over here. So I'm going to preview again. So creating the preview only creates it for me. It doesn't send it to anybody else as a published book. Oh, you know what? Hold on. There's something I need to add. So hold on. So this gets a little bothersome. So let's get rid of this stuff. Let's save it. Get out of here. We'll leave that open because we might talk about that some more. In our drawings here, I have, is it this one? No, that's a different lab. It should be called Killer Code of Prologue Labs. Here we go. So, let me make sure. Alright. So, under security now, I need to add a little bit here. So, hold on 1 second real quick. My brain is breaking because of this music. Hold on. That's not a good song. I don't like it. Let's go to our. We're in dark right now. Let's go to streaming fast. Let's see if this one's any good. I really like this song. Bossa Nova Carnival. Okay. My brain's not working. My brain like literally just shut off while I was talking. Okay. So I'm going to add setting up UFW. Boom. So then the way that I uploaded these, I believe, hold on, let me go, now I got to go over here and Ansible NSV, Ansible CSV report, and then, yeah, Robodom music was killing me. Let's see. What's our last Ansible lab? CSV. Now we got the firewall one. So yeah, I got to make this a little bigger and make a new one of these, and then come here. Enterprise Ansible Sandbox. Oh shoot! I should go here, and it is Ansible firewall environment configure. That's the name of the lab. So then the way that I got these labs actually in to this environment was, I believe, hold on, I gotta go look actually over here because I don't remember exactly how I did it. So I'm here. I've got these are the images, but I believe I just uploaded the images from, I think I just chose a file. Okay, yeah, so I just chose a file and then I just called it whatever I called it, which, by the way, the name has to be exactly the same because then the name gets referenced in the manuscript. So the way it maps, because it's all markdown, right, is linux_labs.png. So all I need to do is overwrite this file, linux_labs.png. That's the name of this file, right? So come here. I'm gonna do it like this, guys. I'm pretty cheap about this. I'm just gonna go like this. Grab this. Looks good. File. Save as. Right in my downloads. Ah, damn it. Linux_labs.jpg. Right? That should be the name. I'm gonna change this to that's fine. BJPEG. Save. And if I look in here, that should be the linuxlabs.jpg. Okay, good. So then now I come over here in the book. Oh, where the hell's the book at? Book's here. I'm going to go to my resources. Linux Labs. Can I just replace this? Delete the resource. Choose an upload file. Boom. Upload. Should be in the same place now. And when I go back to the manuscript, linux_labs.png. So, wait a minute. Guys, I can do some really dumb stuff sometimes. Did I save that as a dot? Oh god. Oh, mother effer. Why doesn't anybody ever stop me, guys? I need somebody to stop me. That's why I hate doing shit like this. File. Save as. PNG. You guys, anybody catch that? I did that to test you guys. Look at this one. Bullshit. Delete. That could be really dumb sometimes. Oh, I could be really dumb all the time, but... Alright, get rid of this one. Linux Labs PNG, not needed. Upload. linuxlabs.png in the same place. And that should be over that one now. Yeah, Robodom, you guys are testing me and I failed. The other one, I believe, is called Ansible Labs. Ansible_labs, yep. Okay. Now we're going to do that one. We're going to delete that resource. Okay. Come back here. Where the hell is it? Here. Boom. Grab this. New. Save as. Gonna be a .png. Gonna be Ansible_labs. .png. Boom. Get out of the way. Upload. Choose a file. Ansible labs.png. Upload. Okay. Now, I need to, over here, I need to make one more generation of the book. So I'm going to create one more preview now. And then I'll go check that and make sure that all the pieces that I've added are working. There we go. And my thing just reconnected, so now you guys should be able to see me talking. Sometimes, so the closed captioning for the stream here, it has to connect up to the cloud to work. So even though it's a super useful tool, it does require the cloud. So we know Microsoft listening at least. All right. I know I'm not supposed to crush water bottles on stream, but okay. Preview is being generated. We'll download the new version of the preview, and then we'll get that. Oh, look, here's my little excellence for teaching at DeVry. This was the thing I was telling you guys I had to do earlier, was I had to pass. I had to take this course, and it was like 6 pretty quick videos, and I watched them on 1.5 speed, and then I had to take a 25 question test at the end, and I was like, I don't remember any of this stuff from the videos, so it was kind of funny. Well, maybe a little bit of it was from the videos, but it was pretty quick. It didn't take me very long. But there's this tool that we have called U-Certify, and it's like a new modality for teaching. It's called U-Certify. That's not, so I don't know. I have those things laying all over. I don't even bother keeping them. Like it asked me if I wanted to save the thing today, and I was like, I have so many. I've literally. I mean, in 15 years of teaching college, I would say I probably have. If I had 10, I probably have at least 150 of those type of trainings. I'm not even talking about compliance training and all the types of training about like what you can release of student information and stuff. Like, it's illegal. Like, if I pulled up and showed you guys, first off, I would never do this, but if I were to pull up and like show student information with names, that's highly illegal. I wouldn't do that, but I'm also saying that that's very like bad. Like that's criminal, in fact. So you can't even do that kind of stuff. And even if somebody's paying for somebody else's college, I can't release it to them. It has to go through the right channels. So it's interesting how much that kind of stuff kind of works and that kind of stuff. Sneaky Donkey, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Let's download the new version of the pub, and then we'll go look at the book. I'm going to look at the book here and see what it looks like. So, come on. So here's the book. Logo was courtesy of Fisherman. Let's fit it to page. Does it have? I want to fit it to page, but I really dislike when it doesn't just do page by page like a normal PDF. Anyways, all right. There's lean pub information. Here's the stuff. We need to make sure that the images are there. Philosophy of Learning Enterprise Linux, how to use this book. Here's our lab guides. Let's scroll in and make sure our lab guides are right. There's our setting up UFW. So if somebody has the book and just wanted to check things off, they could. And then there's our numbering scheme for our labs. Good. Okay. The other one that's important to check is the Ansible one, which is, oh, that's weird. Here's the Ansible Labs. It's got the Ansible firewall environment config in there. Good, so that's awesome. You guys might notice in these, I've stripped off the numbering, but the numbering does exist when you go click on a lab link. So here's our lab link. Here's our digging deeper. So these are all the things. Okay, so these are all the things that we did. But let's check our Linux UFW. So this was our lab link. So we need to make sure that that works. Takes us into the right killer code of lab. It does. Good. And then it says task condition standard, reflection questions. That's fine. Okay. Ansible labs are here. Boom, that looks right. So somebody has a little checklist if they want them or whatever. Installing Ansible. After about lab 7, I didn't have a bunch of these other things going on. Hey BlazeBits, how's it going? What are you guys working on? Security stuff? I think I saw you pop on earlier today. So thanks for the raid. Rope Dom, can you give him a shout out if you're around? We're looking at the book here, guys. This is like a preview. I said read more about the template module here. right? Go read about it. What about the Jinja templating language here? Boom, that's good. And then I said, what syntax do you find? You know, all that good stuff. And then I like this how this is like how scientific notation works. If you guys ever do, I do all APA formatting in my college stuff. That's my college requires APA formatting for my doctorate. It is what it is, right? Doctorate. This thing, man. Doctor. Somebody get the CC the fuck out of here. I'm just kidding. It won't swear for me. Hey Blazebit, so I've seen you guys over there working on Greyhack and stuff, so that's kind of good. Jinja templating, so that's good. That all works. Read about Ansible special variables here. Just making sure that these links work. And read about Jinja whitespace here. Good. More. Did I just close my book out? God damn it. Alright. Downloads. Book. Alright, we'll do it here. We're doing it live. Where am I at? Doing it live. Alright. I know this is very bright, guys. I apologize. Alright, get that out of here. API debugging. We want to make sure that that works. I'll get you in the lab. Well, we knew that. Okay. We want to make sure that it talks about the URI module. Good. We went to the faster music, if you guys didn't notice. The challenge lab here. So, this was the more challenging one. This was the one that I told you guys. This is the only one that I referenced that's not in any of those images. And this is the most challenging lab I have right here. Is the HashiCorp read. So we set up Vault, we put a secret in there, and then we use Ansible to read it, right? That's the most complex of all the labs that I have. Vaulting secrets. That's, oops. I guess since I'm in here, I don't have to do this anymore. That's Vault. Good. Ask some questions. More Ansible documentation about looping. Good. What are some useful commands? How much you use them? Good. System facts. Read the by module documentation here. That's a super useful module, but most people probably wouldn't believe that this lab is like the most important lab I have. Yeah. Oh, by the way, here, hold on. Let me move it like this so you guys can see the CC while I'm still talking. By the way, if anybody's wondering, closed captioning is just PowerPoint. Just does PowerPoint in the background. That's super easy. So if anybody's ever wondering how to get cool little captioning on your stream like that, it's literally a PowerPoint behind everything else. And you know, it's from one of my presentations. I just have it sitting there. It's just in the background. Not really super important, but it's just kind of sitting back there. All right, let me pull up my. Hold on. This is Sumatra Reader, by the way. I don't know if any of you guys have ever used this. It's a pretty nice little PDF reading tool. It's free. I like free and open source, right? Read this IBM doc on RSA key stuff, so that's a good one. By the way, did you guys all see yesterday that IBM bought HashiCorp? $35 a share. 6.8 billion, I think, was the actual number. And they bought it with cash on hand, in case you guys didn't know. They didn't have to leverage any financial. I'm in a financial management class right now, which is funny. Like my DBA has a lot of well, it's a lot of financial and business type stuff, as well as quantitative management type stuff. All right, this is module document, so user module. Good. We're just checking links, guys. We built a lot of this starting last Friday. I mean, the book's been around for a while. Yeah. Do you guys need that? Hold on. It's actually funny. It's in my... If you were like, hey, where do you have this stuff? My old references. This is... No. That's when they bought Red Hat. I don't have it. These are some of my old references. But hold on. There you go. There's a link if anybody needs it. I can also put it on the other side. Also, apparently they have a comma in it, so I apologize if that doesn't work. That may not link for you guys. Oh, and apparently it's too long for YouTube, so YouTube doesn't get it. But you guys can all, everybody here knows how to Google IBM HashiCorp acquire, right? Okay. So this works, and then I show that, and then I say, oh, hold on a second. I want to change. I need to fix this in the dock. So let's go over here. The markdown's wrong. Those should all be code. So we're in Ginger reports, API debugging variables. We're in the message of the day, and the system facts. This should be just past create users, and then package management. All right. So the error is right here, but why is the one? Does this need to be? Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Because if you guys saw, this was out and it was broken. And I think I need it like this. Okay, so that should fix that part. All right, that should fix that part. So then that'll all just be code block, right? Read documentation on the API module here. Okay, it's the right module. Galaxy and roles, read the roles documentation there. Lots to read. What are some other ways you might use them? Web server deploy, read the block module, because that's where we actually use the block module. And you learn about error handling with rescue and always. Rescue and always are control functions that you have in blocks in Ansible can very much like inheritable roles are. Blocks can kind of be used like functions. You got to remember, Ansible's not really a programming language, guys. It's not. And they say it all the time, all over in the documentation. This is not really a programming language. You could do a lot of stuff with it, but it's still a declarative language that's reading top down. And you can do a lot of cool logic stuff with blocks, but you're still not quite calling a function. You got to remember that. Okay, it's not like you can call it 7 times in your play. That's not how it works. All right. Anyway, so there's that. That worked. Security package cleanup. Hit those. See the variables. There's our variables. Good. What nested variables did you use in this lab? That's fine. More of these. Gosh, man, guys, I find that my brain does not work right when the music's too fast. Let's go here. It's a little more level. A little more chill. Alright. That's good. Generate our CSV. Still checking the variables, that's fine. And then we did our firewall configure. And we found that. Also, with the firewall configure, I need to make sure that the basic lab works. Make sure it's getting to the right lab, which it does. That's good. Setting up the UFW here, I need to make sure that this firewall works, or that this lab works as well. That's good. Which makes sense. Yeah, Robodom, my brain doesn't work well when it's trying to process music like that. I've told you guys this before. The music on my stream is for you guys. I learned very early in life that I'm kind of like a sociopath in that I don't need music to work out. I don't need music to run. When I was younger, I used to run about 45 miles a week, and I don't need music for none of that. I can just go do it. And I'm the same way when I work. I don't need music, so I really just have music here for you guys. I can sit here in total silence. Did you guys ever see the when I say sociopath, if anybody here's ever watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's an episode where they bring Dennis in to question him about a murder, and he sits there, and they leave him in the interrogation room to like get him to crack, and he sits there like this. He's like, and it shows the passage of time. He sat there like 9 hours and never moved. It's one of my favorite little Dennisisms, is that he's like insane. Anyways, all right, so that's good. We set up that, we did that, we got down to the firewall configure. that's pretty much it. I mean, I could put a little end on this book, but I'm not really like super worried about that. I'm going to say, okay, so that's all good. So I've created previews. I've done all that stuff. The last thing to do then, we're good on the we'll go here. Go to preview. If you guys have never seen how some of this works, we'll go to the publish page here, and then it says now I can download the latest version, but the latest push version of this was February 12th. So I wanted to try to get it done. Yeah, sorry, Occident. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the music adds a little bit, and some people like it. Some people like a little ambiance. I don't need it though. Like I could literally sit here in silence and just do this stuff. I don't need. Although I will tell you guys, during the day I normally watch Twitch. That's why I have Twitch Prime or whatever. Turbo. I have Turbo. And the funny thing about that is that my Twitch Turbo, I sit and mostly watch people play Dead by Daylight. If you guys are familiar with Dead by Daylight, I have like a weird thing. All right, so I'm gonna notify the readers that the book's been updated. This is final release of the book. There could be additional content added, but for the most part, this is a finished work. So anybody that has the book gets an update, by the way. Oh, I love Dead by Daylight. I've never played a single second of it. Probably watched about 4,000 hours of the damn game, though. Because I just sit here, I watch Ross do it. If you guys know who Rossberger is, I've rated over to him before. All right, so when I publish this is gonna, anybody that has the book, which it's funny, my buddy he's gonna text me in a little bit. He's gonna be, this is what his text is gonna say. It's gonna say, "Let me catch you publishing that book again." That's what Jared says, right? But yeah, Rossberger's great, especially if you enjoy hanging out with that stuff. He comes in here every now and then when he's done. He's on the East Coast time, so it's probably about midnight for him right now. But he'll sometimes pop in here and hang out. He's got like one of those high energy streams, right? Like he's loud and there's stuff going on and there's bells and whistles and all kinds of alerts and stuff. And I just don't have the demeanor for that. As much as I would love to be able to be more entertaining, I realized very early on, especially with college students, I'm not terribly entertaining. I just try to be as correct as possible. And lest anybody criticize that, the reason I try to be in some ways like overly pedantic is this. If you were one of my college students, this is why I do this with my college students. If you worked all day, 40 hours a week, all day you just were breaking rocks or doing roofing like I did when I was a kid, this may be the only time you get to talk tech with somebody. This may be the only time you ever hear somebody talk like this. So me doing it is not because I want to be the smartest guy in the room. I told you guys I don't care about that anymore. I tell people all the time, everybody's just going for second place behind that guy. That guy over there is a smart guy, right? I'll just be over here building stuff because my stuff tends to work, right? So anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. Where's the rest of this? All right. So we pretty much have whatever else we want to do. I'm gonna go check on Ranger here in a little bit, but I don't have to get up super early tomorrow, so I might hang out for a little. Look at Ranger. Look at him. Look at that dog. I'll give him a treat here in a minute. What? It failed? Failed to process the book. That's not good. The wife said she made it safely to... Oh, wait a minute. It says tomorrow in Glendale, Arizona, where I am, it's only going to be 79 degrees. Guys, it's been 94 to 98 the last 3 days. It's only getting to 79 tomorrow? I'll tell my wife that she must have taken the heat with her. So... 79 here tomorrow. So I gotta text the wife. Alright. Why did it fail? It says the book failed. That's weird. Because we've published one of these. And I've only done 3 of these this month. You can do 20 a month. I've only done 3 at any time since February 12th, so we're well over a month away. I think they have something wrong with their their thing, because the other day when I tried to generate something, I actually had to put a ticket in on their forums. They had it set where it said that I had done all 20 of the publishes I was allowed, and it would reset in January 1st of 1970. And I'm like, that's epoch time, guys. One, two, we're not going back there. I don't think. I don't think we're going back to 1970 ever. So I can't wait that long. So, anyways, they fixed it. So, Empecatol. So shoot. So why did this? Let's go back here. Last published at that time, and there's a. So this is the most recent published version of the book. If I want that, I'm gonna go back to the writing. There's nothing here that should be broken. But let's. You know what? I think I know what it is. I don't think it can publish. I think this is a thing. I've made a change and I have not previewed it. So I think this is what I think. We'll see. Okay, this is one of these one test worth 1,000 expert opinions. We're gonna go to the preview page, and we're going to create a new preview. So we're gonna use the fourth one now of these things, I think. So we'll generate one more preview. Because let me think, I made that one change. So I think that's the only thing different than anything I've ever done before. So I'm gonna delete this version. I don't keep all the old versions or anything. I'm not like so sentimental that I gotta keep all the old versions of things or even any of this stuff. I will just throw it all away. I'm not so sentimental. I have the things that I care about, right? But let me give it a second. This will tell me when it's done, and then I can download a new version. I'll download that version, make sure it's good, and then I'll do the publish, the official publish. This will be the last publish of that book, aside from, just barring any other things that I add to it that are like major, but I just don't want anybody to think like, oh, hey, Scott's still working on the book. The book will be, as far as I'm concerned, like done. And then again, it could be updated. It could get like a second version or whatever, but that's not really what it's supposed to do. What's that? 850. Okay, 850 was the last public. Okay, let's get the preview. Preview should finish soon. And then this one was at 9:11 my time. Okay, so we're gonna download the PDF. So we get the most recent version. Check it out real quick. I want to check that one section. Make sure that one section was good. And then we'll, this is Apache server, attempted sudo, that's all fine. Pictures are coming through, so the pictures aren't the problem. All that stuff's good. Right here in the Ginger reports, that's fine. Debugging's fine. Those all are fine. This is what I wanted to make sure, was that this looks like we expect it to. So there was a comparison the other day where we wanted to see and the question was, which of these is better, faster, more reliable, is a simpler execution, and why might you use one of these or the other? And I actually asked it down in the Discord after, and we got a couple of good answers. One of them, whoever it was, had used ChatGPT, which is fine, I guess. It's just, I would prefer, okay, ChatGPT is great as a reference, so I guess that's fair. But it was actually pretty good answers too that were given by ChatGPT. So I'll let you guys go read that if you want. He blocked it off, so it's hidden. You have to go actually click on it. But the question, if you think about this, is why would you use this one over this one, or why would you use this one over this one, and what are the considerations and implications? Right? Back to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Well, you use one because of the implications, right? And then, Max over there going, are these women safe? Are they, we're not doing anything to these women, are we? He's like, no. And he's like, okay. Because for a second there, it kind of sounded like you were, that's an old one. That's the one where they get a boat. But anyways, all right, so that looks good. Okay, I'll get off of the Always Sunny in Philadelphia stuff. Because if people don't know the references, they get real creepy. All right, that's good. So everything's good on the book. So now, if we've done a preview and all that, I think we should be able to go to the publish page. So it says, yep, still back to there. And let's see if we can publish a new version. 98%. Notify readers. This is final version of the original book. Any additional updates will be only if a significant amount of content changes. Right? Like if we just have to update a whole bunch of stuff, then we'll do that. Alright, let's see if the publish works this time. New version of your publish. So alright. So we did a new preview, so we should get past 9. Yeah, we got past. Okay, so that was it. That's a hang up of the book, is if you haven't done a current preview without a change, it's not going to do a publish because it stopped on step 9. But the fun fact is it didn't tell us that. Like I kind of had to know that, like, hey, we did a preview and then we changed something, but we didn't generate a new preview, but the publish broke on step 9. Well, we're on 8.16 now, so we're past that. So if it's going to break, it's going to break on something. I've never seen the publishing break before. That was the first time ever. So I know a few people here for sure. I think like Robodom, some other people have the book. I don't know who's all got the book, but I know some of them are here. You're going to get an email, and then you can download a new version of the book. So throw the old ones away, or keep the old ones for your own amusement. But my goal had been to finish this by the end of this month. I wanted to kind of get this done. I'm going on vacation here, and I'm going on vacation next Friday, so a Friday from now, and I'll be in Mexico from the 3rd to the 10th. So I'll be down in Cancun with a bunch of my wrestling buddies. We're going down there and doing like a little jiu-jitsu camp and just hang out and decompress and stuff, which is funny because I'll be in week 7 and 8 of my college, so I'll be busy. I won't be too busy though, so I'll be good. I'm almost done with this class in general. I wrote everything extra. All right, so that should email everybody. So now I should be able to download the new version of the book. Anybody that has the book will get it. And again, try to tell you guys, I'm not like hard selling the book. It's just if people want a little more than just doing labs, I think the labs are great. But if you want to like write stuff down, if you want additional questions, that's what that stuff's for. So I've been doing that because I wanted to get this mostly done, and now we are. So now we can do whatever we want. We play video games, we do whatever, right? Got the email, awesome, Robodom. That's cool. So here's the deal then. Just got the email. Cool. Yeah, I know some of you guys had the book, and that's awesome. That's one of the reasons. The only reason I even use LeanPub, I would have just done it myself. I can use that other thing, but Ned Bellavance was a guy that I used his stuff. I found him when I was doing my Vault certification a few years back, and he had these really awesome YouTube videos, and he wrote this book, and the book was like 15 or 20 bucks on how to pass the first Vault cert. And I said, hey, I'll buy that, but he wasn't done with it yet. And the cool thing about it for me was as he finished more and more pieces, and he was doing the YouTube videos, and then a lot of the content was in the book, I was getting all these updates, and I was like, so I bought the book, and then I get all the stuff like with it, and I was like, that's really cool. So I like that. Future stuff that I do, and we've got this. So this is the next thing to work on. Is I got to get this done, but I don't really have a timeline for this. But I'm gonna soft say that I'm gonna try to get this done by the end of May. So I'm gonna say, and I'm not trying to rhyme, but get through my my vacation, and then start working on getting this out. So yeah, Ned in the Cloud is Ned Bellavance. Yeah, and I found his stuff because I was studying for my Vault cert, and I was like, hey, his stuff's pretty good. He had these short little 15-minute videos he was doing, and then he was turning them into the chapters for Vault. And Vault is 9 general areas for their cert. And this was just Vault operations, or Vault Associate, not even Vault Operations Pro. It was very simple, and I liked his stuff. I liked his book. I think it got me really close. I think I was already doing all right, but his stuff had me do a lot of actions that ended up helping me on the test. So I really liked his stuff. So that's why I did LeanPub. It just seemed convenient, and I was like, yeah, that's I don't mind. Doing a little bit extra, and then picking that stuff up. The book doesn't really sell very much. It's just kind of hanging out there to people that are maybe really kind of wanting to dig in on this stuff a little more. this is the next thing I'm going to do. This right here is going to be all through our Discord, and it's going to be 120 hours worth of, which is more. That's about 2 college classes worth of theory and lab hours, and it's going to deal with getting you ready for Linux. And then for some people, like I tell you guys, if you've got nothing else, at least having something like this, I'm gonna change this, and it'll be whose ever name, and then it'll be certify that you completed whatever on whatever day. So if you go and complete our course, and I'll have some ways to test that. Watch. In fact, some of you guys might not have seen this, but if you do Killer Coda, there's now a new profile. So Het Tanis is my public profile that everybody knows of, but then there's going to be Prolog testing. And Prolog testing, I'm going to pull it from a Git repository that you can't, it's going to be a closed, private GitHub. So you won't be able to see it unless you have a key like they're going to have. And this is going to have, I'll have, as you do the different labs, which will be test lab. They'll be more like you actually have to do the work and figure it out from all the other labs. If you do that, and you send me, there'll be like some hash keys or something. I'll build something. Then you'll get one of these. So this will be, this will still only be about as valuable as the paper it's written on, but it's to me it's something, right? I think it's valuable to go spend time with that. But anyways, that's, if you haven't played with creator profiles in here, we obviously have all the stuff that we normally have, but then extra stuff's there. Okay, so here's our options, right, guys? So here, I'm gonna stop this thing from spinning over here, and I'm gonna give us we're gonna do a poll, and the poll is gonna be, what do we do next? Video games, Linux labs, start on the course. That'll be me writing the course. I don't think that's going to be super fun for everybody. Let's say security talk and I don't know, cloud topics. And I'll give you guys 10 minutes for that. So there's a poll going. I'm going to turn myself off here. I'm going to loop this so you guys can see Ranger. There's Ranger. Actually, I'll leave it on Ranger. We won't even loop. And I'll move this over here. And let me turn on my little. So the poll is going. I will open. Oh man, hourglass. Pull this thing up and say break and Ranger treat. I'll go give treat. I'll go give Ranger a treat while we're hanging out, so you guys can think about what you're doing. Robodom, we do not use sys analytics or data analytics unless we want to. I could show you guys data analytics stuff that I do. Because yeah, there's some stuff you need to do. I mean, actionable stuff and making decisions, absolutely. All right, you guys hang out, vote if you want, use your channel points. I'll be right back. Alright, guys. That is the laziest I've ever seen Ranger be. I've never seen Ranger not even get up. Like, he didn't even... I don't know if you guys saw that, but he didn't even get up. Alright, let's see how the poll's doing. Start on the course security. We can talk security. Here's our security talks. Damn it. Security. We have within security, we could do compute and data security, which is God fucking damn it. I hate when that shit. I don't know if you guys have ever used PowerPoint, but if PowerPoint is behind another PowerPoint, it'll sometimes take the cursor over, so you can't see the cursor anymore. It's the stupidest fucking design I've ever seen. Who doesn't want to see their damn cursor? Stupidest shit I think I've ever seen in my fucking life. Like, what the fuck are these people thinking? Anyways, I got small enough to grab it. Seriously stupid as shit. These fucking guys. Dumbest fucking thing. Alright, I try not to swear too much on stream, but seriously, when shit's fucking stupid like that, I can't. Alright, anyways, this is compute and data security. Talk about that stuff if you guys want. God damn, that pissed me off. There is cybersecurity incident stuff, general troubleshooting. We do risk management, which is hacking and risk management. We can talk about that stuff if you guys want, which is stuff that's available to talk about all these different pieces. We can go on all that stuff if you guys want. Again, absolutely ridiculous. This one is about security, and then it's remote access stuff. And I got any other security stuff in here? I think I do. Well, I definitely have security stuff up here in Solutions Architect Pro stuff. We had this talk that we did a while back on ransomware, and I think, is my one on security overview pretty? Ever finish this one? That's all security stuff. In the cloud, if you guys care about cloud stuff. We got questions and stuff on this one. Alright. Alright, so we can talk about any of that stuff if security wins. It looks like security's winning right now. You guys got another 2 minutes or so to vote. Alright. Alright, I'm back. I was, as the younger people say, tilted there for a second there. Could add data analytics to the next poll. Yeah, Skull Crusher, I probably should. I need to do more data analytics anyways for my degree stuff. So, alright, so let's get this out of the way. We'll have those as options if that's where it goes. It looks like security is going to win. But you guys can still vote. You guys still got time. I'll just blow through those and kind of go fast through them. And then if people want to talk more about certain things, just let me know. Or if I show anything and you guys want to see me do it, like in a system, if it's in one of the systems where I can show you. I don't know if you guys saw that. Ranger didn't even get up for his treat. That's like the first time I've ever seen that. Skull Crusher, I talk about the degree down. We've got an academics channel. And it's just like academic topics, so that I try to keep everything separated out. So like, you know, if people don't want to see memes and stuff, they don't have to go in the meme channels. And academic stuff is the same way. Like, if I'm posting stuff in there and talking about, like, you know, going and reading, you know, people might not care about research papers or writing or any of that kind of stuff. So I keep everything separate. But yeah, I do talk about it a little bit in the academic thing, yeah. Yeah, in fact, it's funny, you guys know, and then people in the Discord, but I don't really, there's not like that many people that I talk to that I've let know that I'm working on my doctorate. I'm just kind of doing it kind of in the background as I'm working on other stuff, and then like I haven't told my employer, I haven't told the college that I teach at. Although it will be relevant when I finish my doctorate, but it's not really relevant to me while I'm doing it. I'm a visiting professor, or what most people call like an adjunct professor. So I don't see as much of the, like, when you're in academia all the time, they pretty much want you to have a doctorate, right? Like if you're like a dean or something. But I'm not really planning on being a dean. I plan on being an engineer for the next probably 20 years before I ever teach full time. So all right, looks like Security Talks won. So we will go through the security stuff, and we will start with one that I haven't shown on stream quite a bit because I dislike how people use the term hacker. But I will show you guys this, and I tell you guys all the time, I don't mind if you guys know who I am because I'm a real person. So you can find me online. It's not hard to find out who I am. But hacking and risk management in IT systems. Again, I dislike the term hacking, but I dislike it for how people use it, not for what it is. I think most engineers are hackers. Sorry to go off topic, but do you have any content on how to set up a server from scratch? We have some of that down in the Discord, yeah. And sometimes we build servers. And actually, just the other day, I built one up in the cloud for everybody. But yeah, Buslock, you could definitely... yeah, I built one just the other day in the cloud, pretty straightforward. And what I was talking about was how to build like a lab environment. So you had a lab environment. In AWS, you could actually have a single node lab for the next year for free, just sitting out there in AWS. It doesn't cost anything. That's kind of nice. All right, let's talk about this. There's a random quote to get you interested. Kevin Mitnick died last year or the year before now. He was kind of known for his telefreaking, and early 90s he did a lot of kind of stealing and stuff online. When I say stealing, like credit cards and other stuff like that. By the way, that's not me besmirching his name. That's like records. Like he went to jail for it. But Kevin Mitnick was really known for, he started this, well, he was really known as like an early social engineering type hacker. And he did a lot of training on it. In fact, my college still does training from Kevin Mitnick, even though he's passed away. We still have contracts to do training from his company. So like our cybersecurity, like our infrastructure training for our engineers, not even our engineers, our professors. Remember I was saying how we have all this stuff where we have to do training every year? One of at least, not even one of them, it's like 2 or 3 of them I have to go and sit and watch with Kevin Mitnick. So like the movie about him, his social engineering was not, yeah, he was really well known for that. But he does some technical stuff in some of his things, and he definitely at least had some pretty cool labs that he did as he was just kind of walking through people, some of the dangers. But anyways, this is my quote, and this is the reason I have a problem with how most people use the term hacking. Hacking has nothing to do with gaining access into systems. Never has. It's commonly used like that, but hacking refers to taking a bunch of inputs and giving a bunch of inputs to a system and verifying the outputs without understanding what's going on. You're hacking away at inputs until you get outputs from a system. Not all systems are black boxes, but some systems are, and you're looking for ways into or to deal with the system, right? Whether or not you own the systems that you're hacking away on is a completely different topic, right? I mean, it doesn't even matter. Hacking is the concept of bending a system to your will by figuring out its intricacies and making it work. That's what it is. It's actually what the term meant, was you were hacking away at a system. That's where it comes from. So anyway, so here's our overview. what is hacking again? What types of hackers do people talk about in the industry? Some real tools to get started, because at the end of the day, like, all this stuff is just, platitudes and high-minded talk. How do you get involved? Like, who do you go talk to? Who do you listen to? There's a lot of tools out there, right? And then this talk originally, when I gave it to some of my college students, I had to talk about risk management a little bit. So I talked about risk management. What is a qualitative versus a quantitative type of management of risk? And then where risks are and how do we mitigate them? And we'll spend some time in there for people that this will be good for. I know some of the guys are doing Security Plus or have done it recently. Some of this stuff will be useful for that. All right. So, anyways, this is similar to something that I teach at DeVry. So, hacking is a subset of engineering. Like, if you watched me all day, you would see me just beating my head against systems and reading manuals and doing all that. But the reason the overarching engineering is planning and documenting. So when you see stuff at the end, it looks like I just knew what I was doing the whole time. We planned, and everybody's like, oh yeah, Scott will get it working. And then I hack away at the system until I get it to look good. And then I document how I did it so it's repeatable. And that's the process of engineering, right? Designing systems that are that. But hacking is something we do. It is something we have to figure out. But again, hacking doesn't have anything to do with getting into systems. It never has. So it's understanding systems is what hacking is. Grokking the system, right? All right, so the types of hackers, you're going to see this on your Security Pluses and your CISSPs, and these are generic terms that are out there: white hat, black hat, gray hat, and then script kiddies. Most people that are talking about hackers, like 90% of the time, you're talking about script kiddies, just guys running shit they found on the internet. It's one of my things I dislike when people are like, oh, somebody's hacking the game, and it's like, they're not really hacking the game, they're just running something they found on the internet, right? But anyways, again, misuse of words, not that big of a deal, but just things to know. So here's some real tools. If you're like, Scott, what do I do if I want to start learning about this stuff, or I want to learn about the tools? The two major tools, there's a few other ones that are out there, but Kali is big on, it's got all the toolkit to it. Kali comes from Backtrack, Backtrack comes from Wapix, Wapix comes from Nopix, all the way back. All these tools have been around forever. But most of the things, you could go and find them out on the internet. They're all open source tools, and you can put them on one machine. But Kali has them all packaged up nice. So a lot of people will start with Kali, and then you could build your own tool set and build your own playbooks that go and pull everything down and just use a base image of any type. It's really up to you. And then another one that's very popular for forensics and incident type stuff is called Bento. It'll build, you can use it to pull in like an ISO image and build and look at memory and all kinds of things from a snapshot. So it's got a lot of cool forensics and incident response type stuff, right? So then also, if you're going to actually get started, you got to know your methodologies, like what's footprinting, what's scanning, what's enumeration, what's system hacking, what's escalation of privilege, what's covering your tracks, what's your planting black doors, and then you got to know what the MITRE kill chain is. Most people, if you're going to do security stuff, and some of you guys are probably like, oh, what's Scott talking about? Does he even know? Well, I used to be the red team lead for AAA, right? So MITRE.org has the kill chain. Where's it at? MITRE. Gotta know this. The MITRE attack framework. Right here. This is one of the best places. Like, if you're starting out or you're trying to learn some of this stuff, this is the exact way that a good amount of attacks come in and walk through your environment. Reconnaissance, how does it work? Resource development, initial access, how are people gathering information? What does it mean to have like open source intelligence, OSINT, right? And then how do we get into the system? How do we do our executions and start to escalate our privilege, be persistent? How are we doing defense and evasion? Credential, like there's all these things. Lateral movement to other systems. Most of the big, if you saw like Target got popped a few years ago, Target got popped a few times, and then PlayStation got popped a few times too, pretty big over the last like 10, 12 years. And if you go and read, and we'll look at the diamond intrusion analysis thing for how we look at attacks, but the lateral movement in both of those, it was a trusted supplier that had VPN access in. that got compromised first, and then the connection across wasn't as secure. In fact, this is one of the big cases for what we call zero trust security, right? Zero trust security is the idea that, hey, I'll trust you to come in and connect to this system, but I'm not going to trust you to come in and connect to anywhere else you can find. You find an open database and you can connect and try to compromise. Nope. With certificates and devices only talking where they should, even if something's compromised, the blast radius is a lot smaller on what it can infect, and it may start trying to talk to everything in the network, but that's immediately noticed because, one, traffic isn't allowed like that, and two, even if it could try to connect, it can't talk to anything because it doesn't have its certificates. So, anyways, you need to know your MITRE stuff. All right. These methodologies are the certified ethical hacker ones right here, by the way. Zero trust where you give specific... No, zero trust is not people, it's systems, Robodom. And it's certificates. It's talking with certificates. I need to do a lab on it because in our labs, in our labs where I do this stuff where I have us build monitoring, I don't actually generate certificates. And yeah, it's least privilege for systems, yeah. And but by the way, this stuff's all built in here. Watch this. So in my home lab here, I don't pull up my home lab much because we build it over there. But watch, I'm going to show you guys in our where is the hell is that? I don't know where it is in this new one. Oh, data sources. Hold on. I want to show you guys this. So like when I talk to Loki, hold on. Let's turn this down just a little bit. So, one of the things that I could turn on, and Loki could require basic auth and TLS, and then if I turn those on, I have to use the username and password. If I do TLS auth, I have to give the information, right, or a CA cert, where that cert is, and then I have to go bring that cert over here to go trust that system, right, and then I can test it and make sure that the connection still works. So, yeah, I don't set these up in the labs, but I really could do that, and I probably should start doing that. Like I could have the monitoring labs also be locked down, so only the devices that should talk to things can. Because otherwise, this Loki data source that I have, that Loki machine that's out there, anybody in my environment that knows how to write to Loki could just write to that Loki and they could DOS our environment. How do they DOS it? They just fill up all the storage. Just write 10,000 connections a second until it stops either accepting new connections or it fills up. Pretty easy. So that could happen on accident, right? So anyways, this is zero trust ideas. That's how zero trust works. So, all right. So here's some communities to get involved with. Guys, look, I don't necessarily even like the names of these ones, and I know that these are the popular ones, and the problem I have with them is you're doing labs, but everybody wants to be hacker man. Everybody wants to be sitting there with their hoodie up and with the lights off and going hacker man, right? Like every few seconds and stuff. And I think it's fucking stupid. I think it's like anti. How to put this? It's like anti-intellectual, man. Like, anyways, it's labs. We're doing labs. Why are we calling it hacking? We're not hacking. We're doing labs. And there's nothing wrong with doing labs. I build labs. I just acknowledge what I'm doing. Anyway, sans.org is great. So go to those ones if you want. I don't even think I've ever clicked on those. I just put them up there because that's what everybody likes. Everybody wants to do the cool thing. Everybody wants to be a hacker man. So, all right. Sans.org, very expensive training, but really good stuff here for free. They've got the sans.org information checklist, which will get you started, and all of their policy documents. So I'm constantly showing you guys. They've got the ultimate list of cheat sheets. So if you guys have never seen this, yeah, I mean, everybody wants to look cool, and I'm just like, guys, we could just be over here building stuff instead of being cool and being the smartest and doing iRobot. Who cares? Who fucking cares? All right, anyways, all right. Here's a bunch of stuff. I know I'm not going to change the culture, guys. I get it. I don't care. I just wish, it wasn't just a bunch of people going, oh yeah, that guy's really smart, and it's like, it doesn't matter. All right, anyways, here's a bunch of cheat sheets for what to do if incidents happen. And then the other one that I think is really good is They're information security policy templates. If you don't have a security policy of what's going on inside your organization, they have a bunch of really good ones to start with. So I'll link that to you guys as well. Again, anything's better than starting with a blank page. Nowadays, you could probably get away with like going to Chat GPT or something. Say, hey, give me an acceptable use policy basic template. Sure. But maybe before that, this was years ago, but I still think it's valid. You can go in here and get a basic acceptable use policy. You're allowed to use it however you want. It says right here. It says right here, free disclaimer. This policy was created. Any or all parts can be freely used by your organization. So they have allowed this to be used however you want. But you just change your organization's information at the top and then just make it an acceptable use policy that your users can sign and, good, whatever. All right. Kali has a really good community around using their tools and stuff. They have a lot of training. They've got all kinds of discords and stuff. And their goal, again, is to have a tool that has the most available security implementation tools in it, right? So Kali is great. It's a great tool, good community. They got all kinds of stuff there. You guys go play with it if you want. And then this one is the Reddit CISSP docs. This is a podcast list for people that want to get ready for certs. And again, you guys can take it or leave it. Some of these are probably older because this list is from 5 years ago now, over 5 years ago. Some of these probably don't exist anymore, but this is a really good one for spending time and going and listening to security stuff. All right. I don't know how many of those are still running, but I always show that to people because I think that listening to how people talk about stuff is probably one of the best ways to get into the system. All right. So anyways, that's the in air quotes hacking part of it. So what's risk management? Risk management is something that we deal with in IT a lot. You typically have a GRC team, which is governance, risk, and compliance. I always forget what the R is, but it's risk. And IT risk management is the idea of normal risk management, but with IT involved, IT assets, right? So the risk management process always looks like this. Identify your assets. What do we have? And if we don't have a good inventory, there's no security without a good inventory. That's a rule of things. Like if you have a building and you want me and some other security guard to go patrol it, but I say, all right, well, how big is the building? And you're like, I don't know. I'm like, how many floors are on it? And you're like, I don't know. I've been up to the 5th or so. I'm like, where are all the windows at? Where are the fire escapes? And you're like, I don't know. Well, how am I going to protect that? Like, how is anybody going to do that? And it's the same idea in your network. Do you have 1,211 hosts or do you have 1,214? And if you do have 1,211, but there's really 1,214, so there's 3 more out there, is anybody updating or more patching them? Does anybody even know where they're at? How do we find them on the network? Are they just some IP addresses sitting in some range and they're out there talking to, somewhere in the Balkans or something because somebody's compromised bot? Who knows, right? So you have to have a good inventory. That's the very first part of all security. Has the IT department any place you've worked at been under the CFO? No. I have answered directly to a chief information security officer when I was the red team lead. I answered to the CISO. I have answered to... no. I've only ever been under a CISO or a CTO, chief technology officer. Those are the only 2 people I've ever answered to. I've never answered to a CFO in IT, no. I did see a CFO one time have shadow IT of about 600 machines in AWS, and we had to claw that back from them over on the finance team. That was just a mess. Okay, so identify our assets, identify our threats. Threats are common vectors of attack, typically, and we'll talk about the technical terms, but what are the threats? What are the things that can kind of come against our systems? And then assessing vulnerabilities tend to be directly against the types of technology we're dealing with. So there's a bunch of places out there that you can go if you want. There's the CVE database, if you've never seen this. and it is all the common vulnerabilities. You can query this database yourself if you guys didn't know. However, the value add of most scanners is they're scanning for commonly known vulnerabilities. You can go get an API key and you can call this all you want. You go under developer. Oops. You go under developers right here. Here, start here. Request an API key. You do not need an API key to hit this. You can pull this data directly, and I've actually done this with Ansible before on stream and shown you guys this. But without an API key, I think you can only query it. Yeah, the public rate limit without an API key is 5 requests in a rolling 30-second window. So that means you can do 10 requests a minute. Do you need that type of granularity? I doubt most people do. But you can request an API key, and then I think you get like 30 seconds or something. And then it also allows you to batch. It says nothing's denied, but it's just batched. So that's something to read about. But anyways, you can go away. You don't have to deal with that if you don't want. But you could do, and I actually thought about doing this as like a little project. There's a few tools that let you mirror their database. Yeah. So you could pull it down. But I thought about just having, look, you could start and then you could just do like in the last 24 hours, and you could just pull it every morning, and you could just have like a little Grafana dashboard of all the new vulnerabilities that mention Red Hat, Java, and Oracle. Maybe those are your major technologies in your organization. Red Hat, Java, Oracle, right? We're a Java shop for all of our web front end. We're an Oracle for all of our database, and we run Red Hat on 90% of our systems. And you just simply do that every day just to see if there's any spikes and anything that, and that's not the best thing. I mean, there's Tenable security, there's Qualys, there's these different scanners that do all that kind of stuff too, but there's nothing that says that you can't do it. It's an open database. Anybody can hit this. So, you don't have to rely on somebody else for any of this crap. Did I link that to you guys? NIST? Okay, yeah, there you go. Boom. You guys can go play with that. There are different, there used to be like a version 3, and now I think there's a version 4. No, is it 2 and 3? The CVSS score format changed, so most everything published now should be CVSS version 3, I think. I think it's 2 and 3. But you can sometimes still query older stuff, but then you got to take it in the older format. So that's not super hard to find in an API call, right? How do I? It's like you're that little trash panda or that little raccoon going, give me all the garbage, like give me all the stuff. It's not super hard to parse out an API call, right? Like a response. So anyways, identify assets, identify threats, assess your vulnerabilities. So you know what's out there, and then you start looking at which one of those are actually there, and then we start to assess risk. So once we know what is vulnerable, like I'm using Apache 2.4, but I really need to, this is vulnerable. Log4j was 100% compromisable on systems that were running Log4j. If people could get their payloads into your servers that were using Log4j, they were going to compromise your box 100% of the time. That's why it got a 10. It was immediately a 10 when it first came out. By the way, it got patched multiple times, and there were like 6 actual re-releases of the same vulnerability, but in different ways with the same Log4j, and they were all like 9 to 10 on their CVSS score. I've only ran into a few CVSS scores of 10 in my whole career, and Log4j was one of them. If you guys remember that, we assess our risks. Like, God, guys, I remember when Shell Shock came out. Shell Shock was like, it was 2015. Yeah, it was like 2015. And they were like, oh my gosh, these servers they've been vulnerable for 20 years. If somebody has a bash shell exposed to the world where people could connect to it, it is 100% exploitable. And you're like, who the fuck exposes a bash shell directly to the internet? Like, you got to come in through SSH or something. Is that what you're talking about? They're like, no. If bash is exposed, and you're like, I remember thinking this. I'm like, I've literally never even heard of anybody doing that in my whole time doing this. And back then I had only been in the industry maybe 15 years. And I remember thinking, what? Like, anyways, my point is, the assessment of risk is really where a lot of this breaks down, because the red teams are really good at finding threats and assessing your vulnerabilities and even poking on stuff. But the assessment of risk is, well, how vulnerable is it really? You had to come in with an elevated privilege to find that was the version of some tool sitting there and then you had to actually have a shell already, so you already compromised somebody's account to get on the box. There are layers to this. We have what's called defense in depth, right? So then with your assessment of risk, then you have to figure out what you're going to do with the risks. Are you going to accept them, meaning you just take it? Are you going to mitigate them in some way by having something else in front of them or blocking them? Are you going to avoid risks by just turning that old server off because we can't do anything to stop this, so we just turn it off. We avoid the risk. Are we going to sell the risk? Buy insurance. Buying insurance is selling risk, right? That's what it's doing. All right, anyways. Don't use Linux at work. How does it handle security and groups and roles with Active Directory? All right, so Skull Crusher, I'll answer that here in a second, but how does Linux handle security with groups and roles like Active Directory? Is there a management interface to that kinds of info? I only see the ones being done in CLI. So, Skull Crusher, what we do is we form trusts, and it works like this. So, Linux will trust your Active Directory, and there are tools that allow it to do that. In older versions of Red Hat, we used to use Kerberos and so it was Kerberos and what's the name of that other tool? Samba. So Samba and Kerberos would allow us to pull down users, authenticate users through Kerberos, and trust that Active Directory was a source of truth. The users would pass a password to the system. The pluggable authentication modules would go validate that user had permissions, or in some cases it could also verify the token of the user if the user presented a token, and it would get access to the system based on who the user was or whatever, right? Nowadays there's tools like SSSD and IDM. Hold on a second. This thing has been busted. SSSD and IDM are kind of more common ones, and they will where the hell am I here? And they will connect and allow you to lost my train of thought because that thing wasn't working, but yeah, SSSD and IDM are more modern ways of doing it. But yeah, at some point you establish a trust to an Active Directory or whatever type of tooling you're going to use. Active Directory is a very common one, and then in that case too, yeah, you can pass all the group information through. I use group information all the time to allow users. I don't do it in my home lab, so this won't work exactly. But if I show you, there's an access.conf in all Linux boxes, right? And in here you can configure a bunch of things. And if you go right here, so see like this at some group, right? What we can do, and this is something that I used to do, and then we can block everybody. These are all commented out, so none of this is actually happening here. But I could let a whole group come in that you define inside of your Active Directory, so I don't have to be in any way responsible on the Linux side for any crap you're doing with users. But if you put users in the right group, like group Linux and then like server name or whatever, I can have that allowed on my system, and I can give those users certain permissions here. I can also do that in sudoers, and then there's all kinds of other things I can do. So SSSD is other things. So it's Kerberos and Samba. That's kind of an older way, and then it's SSSD nowadays often, or IDM. I think it's Identity Management. That used to be Red Hat paid for service, but now those are free. So Red Hat will let you, if you're using Red Hat in your environment, you can use IDM for free nowadays. And what it does is it communicates and it establishes a trust, and then all your Linux systems can talk directly through it through like SSSD or whatever. And what it does is it allows, I don't want to say it's like a buffer, but it's like a proxy to authentication. So there's stuff. Yeah, free IPA. Yeah, and then another one, this is a big one, is Keycloak. Keycloak is very powerful. And I think that uses free IPA under the hood too. I'm not 100% sure, but they're all compatible. So Keycloak's a big one. I meant to set that up in my lab, but I just haven't had time. All right. So risk management looks like this. And then So when we talk about risk, we either talk about quantitative analysis or qualitative analysis. And if we look at these are the same analysis of something happening in our environment. Um, yeah. SSSD gets set up with Realm D too as well. Yeah, those are the commands. Yeah. Quantitative analysis uses numbers. You can give anybody those tasks. The most junior engineers can do a quantitative analysis. They don't need any kind of like special background or expertise. As long as they're getting good information from people, good information will come out. You just put it in, you do your risks, you calculate how much risk you're carrying. And these are just me making stuff up, right? Qualitative is subjective, though. It's not objective because you're not using numbers. It's just high, medium, and low. Sometimes these even come in like heat maps. But you need to have some expertise to know what is high, medium, or low in this kind of relative sense, right? Viruses may be low overall, but they're kind of higher than maybe like disk failures taken down. So you got to understand what's actually the types of threats and risks that you have and that kind of stuff. And disk failure is always present. You will always have disk failure if you're doing big data system. I have big data storage. I have exabytes of data that I deal with, right? And that's huge. Exabytes are big, and I do not worry about data loss because the backing systems that I have for those don't not really that subject to it. We lose disks all the time. Disks are a common failure thing. We have guys crawling around the data center. I used to be a guy in the data center. We'll go pull disks and put a new disk in and make sure it's rebalancing and striping and all that stuff, and we're good. But anyways, quantitative is numbers. Qualitative is it's high, medium, low. It's still typically underneath. By the way, good risk analysis tends to use both of these. Sometimes qualitative will just be used for like the executive summary to give them just the facts. Give them because most executives only look at something for like 10 minutes, right? So you give them quick, and then the quantitative analysis can be where you got that later on for the people that actually do read past like page 5 of a executive report or whatever, right? And that's very true, guys. Typically, if you're ever talking, an exec's only got like five to 10 minutes of attention span, if even. So you gotta talk quick to them. They're thinking about other things, right? That's how this world works. It's how security works too. Security, more than any other place I've been, gets thrust up into these really high places that sometimes it's like I'm not dealing with just normal engineers here. I'm dealing with people that have been in business for 30 years that don't understand any of that shit. They just need to see stuff quick, right? So just know that a lot of this stuff you're squeezing down and distilling down what people need to know, and that's kind of an important, kind of valuable thing. But anyways, all right. So security vulnerabilities are weakness in a system, process, or architecture that can lead to compromised information or unauthorized access. That's what a vulnerability is. Exploits are taking advantage of that, and zero-day exploits are when something happens very quickly and it hasn't really become public knowledge and there's no mitigation strategy or patching for it, right? Typically called a 0-day. 0-day tends to be the first day too. If you ever go read about Stuxnet, there were 3 0-day exploits that were employed in it, and actually after it first came out, somebody said there might have been a 4th one that was used too. So there were 0-day exploits. However, just to let you know, some of them had been patchable for like 6 months, but people hadn't patched. So it's a big reason to patch shit. But anyways, all right. People are huge risks. I always say in systems world that there's 2 misconfigured things. You can have misconfigured users and you can have misconfigured systems, right? Those are typically your things. This is people risk. People are vulnerable to social engineering. You got phishing, baiting, quid pro quo, tailgating, and some people don't like to call people malicious insiders. Sometimes they're just compromised insiders. Sometimes somebody's inside your organization who likes to gamble and owes somebody $30,000 because he's betting on the ponies or whatever. That happens, right? I had a guy who worked with me at Lockheed. He had been on a program for 9 years, and he went 9 years, yeah. And he had been on our program. He had a top secret clearance like all the rest of us, and he went to Vegas, World Series of Poker. This would have been like 2010ish, 2011. He he won. He was at like one of the final tables at World Series of Poker, like in the early 2000s, 2010, 2011ish. He won a big deal of money, like a lot of money. He had to report it. I had the impression, he didn't tell me exactly how much, but being at the final table, I had the impression it was like over 250K. Anyways, a week later they took his clearance. They don't have to tell you why they take your clearance either. You can appeal it, but they never have to tell you. Not a top secret one, not the ones we had anyways. But they you can appeal it, but they don't have to tell you, and they can just tell you no, right? And he never came back to our program, so I don't know what ever happened to him. But he won, and then I don't know if somebody just said, he's obviously got a gambling problem if he won this, and it was weird because he put it on his taxes, he disclosed it, he did all that stuff, but they still pulled him off the program. So interesting, right? We defend against these by training our users. The most important thing about fixing users is training them, right? And training tends to be boring. If I just sat here and started going through all those docs, those policy docs earlier about how we deal with these things, most of you would probably glaze over and just be like, I'll tell you, even with the Kevin Mitnick stuff and even with, God, all the training I have to do, it can be super annoying, right? I made a meme years ago. It's up in our Discord, but it's like, it's Wayne and Garth. I'm probably talking to people that have no idea who Wayne and Garth are. But anyways, Wayne's World was a skit on Saturday Night Live, and then it became a movie. And there's a scene in part two, I believe. Yeah, it was part two. There's a scene, Schwing. There's a scene where they're walking backstage, and they've got these VIP passes, and they're going like this to everybody that, like, anybody that might ask them. They're showing their little credentials, and the little thing with the GIF was, it was like how I feel when security training comes up. I just want to show people like my CISSP so they leave me alone, but it never works like that. They still make you take the training. But anyways, all right. So people risk. How do we mitigate these risks? How do we kind of keep people from being problem? Do you remember Cyber Awareness Challenge, Jeff? Q, I don't remember that. Was that who was that with? Was that I've seen some really bad ones over the years for cybersecurity, but no, he wasn't the guy. He wasn't the guy that No, I don't know who Jeff is. I was trying to think of something. I'm thinking of the guys that get hurt in the warehouse. That was a funny one. It was like an OSHA safety video. People were like getting crushed by forklifts and stuff. But no, that's different. I'm familiar with the one. There was a military one where the guy's always sitting there telling you about like not putting out classified information and operations information. That one's pretty funny. He's always standing there like looking super like pretty sure everyone on that. Yeah, interesting. No, I never ended up taking that or doing that. I was cleared from 09 to 13. I'm still technically cleared or clearable. I just have to go get my top secret again. I've had like 3 or 4 public trusts since then as well, which is like a lower level of security clearance. But you got background checks. You also have to in top secrets, you got to take a poly, and sometimes you have to take a life cycle poly, and those can be rough. They'll really go deep on stuff about you. They can ask you if you cheat on your wife. They can go deep in on people, and then they can take your clearance for anything on some of those too. But make sure you're doing background checks. Make sure that people aren't hitting any of these like problem things. Principle of least privilege. Don't let everybody be root, and only give the rules and suitors that they should have. And contractors only give enough access and privilege to their job. One of the things that when I first started learning about AWS and all of their policies, they got a lot of policy stuff in identity and access management. One of the ones that I learned very early on, and I like this. It's in some of my different trainings when I show you guys the AWS stuff. They always showed in the A Cloud Guru stuff. They always showed this, and it really stuck with me. If you have a contractor that's only going to be on a job for 30 or for 90 days, let's say, when you build their identity and access management permissions, you can just say up until a certain time right in the policy. And then here's the thing: if you keep them on, and after 90 days their stuff breaks, then you just go, oh shoot, sorry, and then you just add to it or you pull that policy out. But you can do that whenever you want. Yeah, full scope. I hated my poly. I thought poly was one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. I've never been I've never been interrogated by anybody before that. My military time was infantry, so I didn't have any of that kind of crap. But man, I did not like getting polygraphed. It was not fun being interrogated like that. Checks and balances. So make sure people are doing mandatory vacations, job rotations, scheduled access. The one I always give on this was one of my buddies was working. There's a company out here called Swift. Most of you have probably heard of Swift Trucking. They're a big trucking company, but they're in Phoenix, and they merged with Knight Transportation eventually. But I think Swift still has the name though. But anyways, I think Knight might still have their own name, but they're under one organization still. And my buddy was working for him, and there was an IT guy there. And the IT guy had this checks and balances idea is something that they did not employ there. So what he had was he had the permission to pay suppliers for IT services. So people would do IT services for him, and he could say, okay, yeah, this invoice came in. I'm okaying this $200,000 invoice for this IT services or software, or whatever we have, right? He could buy stuff for the company. That's fine. But he also had the ability, this dude over at Swift, and this was only a few years ago too. This might be in the news somewhere, but my buddy was working with them when this happened. He also had the permission to add vendors, so he could approve pay and he could add vendors. So he had a business on the side, and he added his business and he started charging services, sending over invoices, paying invoices to himself. And he made off with about $650,000. Now, hold on, real quick, just so you guys, because you're going to wonder, how'd they catch him? Did they catch him because they caught him over there? Nope. This is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. He had like $120,000 in student loans from whatever he had done. And one day he was like, you know what? I'm just going to pay them all off. So he took that account and he paid off his $120,000. And the IRS came back and goes, hey, you've only been making $70,000 a year. Where'd you get $120,000 from? And he's like, well, and then they started looking into it, and they're like, well, and then and so IRS tipped off Swift to it, and that got him thrown in prison for embezzling money. And I just think it's funny that it's like, he would never been caught. If he had just sat there and just paid like the minimum interest on his, whatever for 20 years, or even if he'd paid off a little more and paid it off in 10 years or something, they would have never caught him. But they caught him because he paid off his student loans in one hit. He didn't want to see that bill anymore, so he paid $120K off or whatever. And they're like, huh, where'd you get all this money from? So, yeah, that one was always interesting to me. Anyway, that's checks and balances. Data loss prevention. Uses software to monitor confidential data, track access, data ownership, and prevent it from being copied. The first thing about DLP, the very first thing about data loss prevention is you need to know where all your data is. Most organizations, most big IT companies and big technical companies couldn't tell you where all their data is. Couldn't even start. There's probably very few people that know where all this data is siloed across everything. That's one. Two. So the first thing is you need to know where all your data is. The second is you have to label your data. Government's very good about this. We're talking about top secret stuff over here and clearance and stuff. Government's very good about labeling things. It's unclassified, it's classified, it's Five Eyes, it's top secret SITK, it's top secret whatever. There's no form. There's all kinds of different things that it can be. Isn't data technically duplicated on multiple days? Could be. Star Fox, it depends what you design for your data, right? But data loss prevention only works if you first tag that data, and then you have to have some kind of tooling or ability to not pull data, off of your systems or whatever. So, and also data loss prevention is not necessarily just tracking things leaving. It needs to be able to stop it, because if it's just tracking data leaving, it's like, okay, bye. We joke around a lot about with data loss prevention. We talk about ransomware or somebody stealing your data is just a free net backup. If somebody steals all your data, it's just free backup on the internet. I mean, it's still a problem, but it is free backup. All right, anyways, technology risks. So we were talking people risks first. Now we get into technology. Technology can fail. Technology can have limitations, and there are inherent risks in network hardware design. The more technical and sophistication these risks are, they take advantage of human errors, people leaving defaults on usernames and passwords. That's terrible, right? Some examples of technology risks are spoofing. People can spoof and impersonate MAC addresses. So you might say, well, but I had MAC filtering on my Wi-Fi, and you're like, but people can scan the beacons and see all of the MAC addresses that are being transmitted, right? So, like spoofing attacks or MAC filtering tends to not really be something that a lot of people use, but they do tend to use it on direct switch connections at the access layer, right, which is the lowest Cisco layer. Access is the most port dense, where we go out to all the endpoints. But we tend to do that so that devices that don't move around too often are all the same. IP addresses can, people get into a network and they scan all the IP addresses and start enumerating stuff. And spoofing of IP addresses is not super difficult either, right? Then there's different types of denial of service attacks. I used to always show this, but this is a really good. If we're just starting with AWS DOS, their distributed denial of service stuff. Let's see if this has. They have changed this a little bit, but this is still a pretty good start right here around denial of service and what it is, right? And also, let me see, what's the security backup rule of 1, 2, 3? I always forget this tool. Maybe it's 3, 2, 1. Here, yeah, here it is. This one, we were looking at this the other day, but this is a pretty good rule. Open link and open image in new tab. So to your question, Star Fox, this is the rule that some people use, the 3-2-1-1-0 rule, and I've heard it called 3-2-1-1, and Veeam is using this to sell, obviously. But it's 3 different copies of the data. So maybe you got a VM and 2 backups or snapshots or whatever. Then 2 different media. So maybe you got some tape and some disk backup. Then you've got 1 offsite copy. So you're pushing up to the cloud. And then one of them at all, is at least air-gapped or immutable. So air-gapped means it's not being changed in real time with any of these. So even if somebody ransomwares you and takes out all this one can be slowly brought back. Right? And then that has to be within your RTO and RPO, which, if you guys need, there's that. And RTO, RPO is a very common. So let's see. Oh, I like AWS stuff, so we'll do their RTO, RPO stuff. But this is a really good thing to understand. How long back from the incident do we lose data? That's our RPO. And how long are we down before we're back in an operational state? That's RTO. So this topic right here, from the incident, something happens, a meteor hits your data center. How much data are you going to lose back? How long is it going to take to recover? Okay. Very, very useful kind of information. All right. Check on Ranger real quick. How's Ranger doing? Guys, my dog, man. My dog. What are we gonna do about that dog? But he's doing all right. Okay. Man, I've been talking a long time. All right, but we got all this stuff. DDoS, right? Denial of service is just denial. Let me ask you this: if you have a denial of service because somebody maliciously does something, is that any worse than a denial of service because somebody queried a database and stopped it from responding within the 100 millisecond service level agreement that you've agreed to? Is there any? One was malicious, and one was just some, intern that you let run for some reason against the production database. Both of them dropped the service level out of, you're outside of your service level window, your service level agreement. Does it matter? Does it matter if something's malicious? And I've asked this before down on our Discord. Does it matter if a security incident is something still a security incident if it wasn't malicious? If it wasn't some bad actor, it was just somebody in good faith doing the wrong thing. Does it matter? Does it still get reported? If you take downtime against a process, right? If you take downtime against your web servers for all of Amazon, like I go to Amazon right now and it's down. Does it matter if it was accidental or on purpose to the business? Like to to those guys that are looking at the executive reports later of actual downtime, are they still gonna see that downtime, or do we go, it doesn't count because it wasn't on purpose? Somebody rear ends you on the way to work. Does it matter if they did it on purpose or not? Probably still going to ruin your day, right? Anyways, something to think about. The security standpoint is it does matter. The security, and it kind of sucks, but if any of you guys know who Les Mis, like anybody here remember Les Mis? You've got Javert and Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean and Javert, right? And Javert just fucking has to follow the law. He absolutely will throw you in prison for 20 years if you've stolen a loaf of bread to feed a kid. He does not care. You broke the law. It's black and white to him. And it sucks to think like this, but good security people are literally like black and white. Now, security people want to be liked. They want to fit in with the organization and stuff. But honestly, and I'm the same way. I will cut corners unless somebody forces me to. Right? Sometimes I can admit that. But I understand the risk typically still. But the point is, like, security has to be Javert. They can't be Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean is an example of grace, right? Like he steals from the monk, but the monk they bring him back, and he goes, no, he actually did. I did give him all those things. In fact, here's the two nicest candlesticks. I don't know why I left these, and he gives them more silver, right? And then he changes his life because of it. And that's the whole. There's a lot of other stuff going on in Les Mis, and a lot of people don't like that story because it's all singing. But the story itself is fantastic, right? It's like one guy gets grace and changes, and the other guy is just like a fucking rod of iron of perfection, and he breaks because he can't ever change. Like the law is the law is the law. He even sings songs about it because it's all singing songs, right? Anyways, all right. I won't talk about that because people will be like, this guy talking about singing? I'm not gonna sing. Don't worry. DNS poisoning, DNS spoofing, art poisoning. DNS poisoning. We can use DNSSEC nowadays. So DNSSEC is we trust who we're talking to, and we can prove that they are who they say they are. So DNS poisoning is harder to do. Art poisoning used to be our main way to cause switches, because if switches get art poisoning to happen to them, they end up going into a flooding mode. Because switches, when they first come up, their ARP table is built dynamically. I show that process in other talks, but we used to poison those and then cause them to dump. One, the switch is not acting very efficiently anymore because now it's in broadcast mode. And two, everything can listen to every piece of traffic. So that's always a problem. There's man in the middle, where we capture transmissions and can replay them later. We do things that when you're looking for how do I mitigate man in the middle, you're looking for a term called perfect forward secrecy. Perfect forward secrecy of hashes and passwords and certificates and stuff like that do not allow a replay of events. Perfect forward secrecy says even if you compromise this, you still can't replay it. So, rogue DHCP server, somebody else sets up a rogue DHCP server. One of the things that they do when they do this, I don't think I say it here, but if somebody's going to set up a rogue DHCP server on your environment, the first thing they do is they exhaust all the DHCP addresses on the server that is up. So now the server thinks that it's completely full and it no longer responds, and then a rogue one can run and cause problems. So this is one of the reasons why it's very wise if you run DHCP servers in your environment, which I guarantee you guys, your Windows, even if you're on the Linux team and you don't run DHCP, because on Linux team we tend to build everything static. That's just, we're server guys. But it's very wise to track how much DHCP address usage you have, because you'll find a lot of problems can be solved by just making sure that never goes any higher than the normal, making sure that there's not too many wireless connections in your guest Wi-Fi, if you allow guest Wi-Fi, and your guest Wi-Fi needs to drop into a VLAN that only goes to the internet anyways, right? DAuth attacks. I have a Kali box back here on a Raspberry Pi, and I've shown you guys DAuth before, but what we can do with DAuth, hold on, I got a lab on it. If you guys don't mind just reading without me actually going and doing it. Excuse me. This is not in Linux group, I don't even think. I think this is actually out here in security down here. Maybe it is in Linux group, but whoops, Linux group. But I think shit. Where do I have this, guys? It's been a while since I did this. Not teaching. I think it's might be in here. No, I definitely did it with my college students. Guys, I don't remember. It wasn't my High Performance Compute project. I don't think it's stuff. Shit, I don't know where it is, guys. I don't remember. Hold on, let me go to documents and look for West Mech. Hold on. I originally gave this talk to the high school students. PUSD, that's Pure Unified School District. Let's see it. Shit, I don't remember, guys. Alright, I don't know. Anyways, I was going to show you guys what a DAuth attack looks like, but it's just you can send DAuth packets as though you're the wireless beacon. So the beacon is the wireless access point, and you can send DAuths to other systems, and they'll try to reconnect. And when they do, you can capture this what's called a handshake, and then you can go and you can crack that at your leisure. And that's a thing that people do. You do not want to crack it on a Pi because it doesn't have, I mean, it would be there for 30, 40 years. But you go take it to a box with some power and you can crack some of that stuff pretty quick. Just testing all the variations until you get the same hash, right? There's insecure protocols, things that we just don't run. Telnet is huge. HTTP, serial line interface protocol, we don't really run. Trivial file transfer protocol, we really don't run unless it's S in front of it. It's SFTP, which is the trivial file transfer protocol, by the way, is less than FTP, but FTP belongs, oh, there it is right there. It belongs here too, so TFTP is the same. TFTP used to be really popular with pushing like iOS images, and well before Apple ever had the iOS, Cisco had the iOS, right? Cisco was iOS for 40 years now, something like that. So they've had that name for a long time. SNMP version 1 passes everything in plain traffic or plain text, so we don't use it. And SNMP version 2 is also not used, but SNMP version 2C and SNMP version 3 are the ones that typically get used. All right, backdoors. Did everybody here read about what happened with I believe it was called XY? And there was a really good write-up that came across on XY, not let's see. So there was a really good write-up. You guys can go read about it, but we'll just find. Did anybody find a good one? There, somebody might want that. I don't know. Alright guys, I don't have much more energy in me, but podcast list, I showed you guys that earlier. Fucking my dog, man. Alright, malware. You guys probably know about malware, right? The differences between the different things. As you guys read about that for a second. And we'll go look, because I got a bunch of risks on here. There's all kinds of things that are risks, right? And then there's all kinds of things that can affect you. Alright. Encryption, stealth, polymorphism, time dependence. Some malware may exhibit more than one of these, right? So some people will encrypt things, some people will break them up into tar files and then unzip them. And that's one of the reasons why when there's certain things, certain signatures are based on compressed or hash values of tar files and stuff, because some malware is, something. But what all of those things are typically running off of some type of what we call a signature. So it's somebody's seen it before. Until somebody's seen it, there's no signature defined for things. So then when we're looking for stuff, we need to use like statistical or heuristical methods. So it's heuristics and statistics, right? Those are two types of methods typically for analysis. So how do we mitigate things, right? We don't let things get through our perimeter. So there are, if we're in public cloud, if we're in the private cloud, we've got our perimeter security, we've got our network security, our endpoint security, our application security, and then at the end of the day, our data security. And there's all these other pieces here that kind of feed into that. But the point is, you expect somebody to compromise some pieces of it, but you still don't want them to be able to get at your data. Maybe they compromise something over here, but they're still not able to get all the way down in. Maybe they compromise your endpoint or your user. So perimeter security is your identity and access management of your users. And they get into your endpoints, but they don't have pseudo permissions. Or they compromise at your endpoint security, your containers, but your containers are immutable and can't become root. So they don't really have a footprint. They can look at stuff and maybe stage other stuff, but they can't get all the way down to the data. That's the goal. Keep them off the data. How do we understand what happened? So if there's a compromise that happens, or we have this unique ability as humans to not see something happen to somebody else. Like I don't have to see something bad happen to some other company, but I can read about it later, right? I can read a report. So this is a very common analysis, which is called the diamond model of intrusion analysis. And here's if you guys have never seen it and you guys want the actual white paper on it, this is the actual research paper on it. Here's how this was written. When was this written? I don't even know. Hold on. When this was published up here? I like that. Intrusion analysis is much about TCP dump as astronomy is about telescopes. That is funny. I don't think they have the date on this anywhere. Anyways, it's a good model for how we do things. And they define that there's an adversary and a victim, and that is the socio-political axis. And then the infrastructure and the capability are the technological axis. So of these things, the adversary is going at the victim, They're doing it for a social political reason. They're activists. They want money. They want somebody to stop doing something. They want to sell whatever there and give it to some other group. But social is the money side of things, and political is the power side of things of an adversary and a victim. And then the infrastructure versus the capability is for the technology. The infrastructure is what they have to go against you, and your capability is your ability to defend it. Now, full stop. I've heard that the other way too. The capability of the adversary versus your infrastructure to defend it. You have to go read about it. I don't even remember anymore. It's been so long since I've read that. But the way that I seen it described that I kind of like, this comes from Threat Connect. This is their diamond model of intelligence with Star Wars involved. The adversary is Luke Skywalker, Tatooine, the Rogue Squadron, Rebel Alliance, and they are attacking the Death Star, Emperor Palpatine, and the Empire. Right? That is their socio-political thing. The capabilities are he has all of these things, and he's good at shooting bomb threats, and he can attack their infrastructure. So see, in this case, they've switched it, where he can attack their infrastructure with the capabilities that he has and the abilities that he has to compromise their infrastructure. So the socio-political axis, which is here, is the motive was ideological revenge, and the intent was political upheaval. That's what they wanted. And they did precision targeting, force-controlled flight, and forced communication between the people. It's actually really funny. I rewatched those again the other day. I hadn't seen them in a long time. And it's funny, because he was getting the forced communication, and he was controlling it without his computer when he made the shot, right? So anyways, that's that. Questions, you can message me or whatever. Just message me on Discord if you guys want to message me anything. Alright, anyways, I just watched the first one again, like about a month ago at the symphony. So they do a symphony while you watch. So you watch the Star Wars. You watch the Star Wars, and then there's a symphony playing in front. They do it at the Phoenix. What is it? It's like the downtown Phoenix Theater or something. They do it once every few months or something. In fact, the second one's coming out, and I'm like, I don't know if I can sit through another one of those. It was a long time in there, and they did a lot of people were dressed up and stuff. It was probably fun for them. It was fine. I mean, I had a fun time with it, but it was more of a childhood thing. I don't even think I've watched 4 of the new ones. Like the last 4 ones, I don't even think I've watched. I stopped after whatever the Rogue One was. So, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go find somebody to raid. I appreciate you guys all coming by. We'll work on stuff probably pretty late tomorrow, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of stuff Saturday and Sunday too, because the wife's out of town. So I'll be around. Also, I don't have any college stuff, so there's a lot going on. You guys should read VA Need to Escape. You should read a little bit about what happened with Korea, South Korea getting attacked by North Korea in, when was that? What year was that? 2009, 10, 11, somewhere in there. Probably find that. I'll post it up in Discord if I find that. But yeah, let's go find somebody to raid. Let's go see what's going on out there in the world. Somebody's doing something fun. Computer science stuff. See if there's anybody I'm following that's on. Let's go hit up Sid. Sid's doing stuff. Alright, I appreciate you guys coming. Make sure you guys say something. Oh, it looks like his system's rebooting. We'll go play with him anyways. So, I appreciate you guys coming by. I will see some of you tomorrow, and we'll mess around a little bit and do whatever. So, take care, everybody.